Greetings and welcome to GatherVerse AI Summit 2025. We're so happy to have all of you with us today at GatherVerse.live and elsewhere streaming on our many social platforms that we broadcast to. Truth be told, we don't have an accurate number of how many of you came to arrive today, but we do know it certainly is quite a few of you, more than a few, more than we candidly expected for this summit. We realize that this is a very different time at the discussion of AI. Before we soar into this discussion of the current and future state of artificial intelligence briefly, we have a lot to unpack today on this day one GatherVerse AI Summit 2025, where we meet and assemble from around the world with people that are working in their offices, they're broadcasting and viewing in their homes. There's multi-broadcasts happening in different locations, within the offices, within your homes, virtually, within your communities. GatherVerse meets at the intersection of emerging technologies and humanity, with a specific and keen focus on humanity first, accessibility, education, equality, community development, safety, privacy, wellness, ethics, care, compassion, joy, gratitude, well-being, and more. If you think that you've arrived to a summit that's going to give you the express deck breakdown of large foundational models and dealing with small model development, and dealing with recursive models, and dealing with GANs and CNNs and convolutional neural networks and all the different things that we see coming out when it comes to the public and private sector of the distribution and deployment of models, you've come to the wrong location. There's already so many incredible people and broadcasts out there that are covering these terrific and fantastic things. We've never seen technology accelerate at this rapid clip than we have today. We don't come to GatherVerse to necessarily and directly talk about the tool, but we talk about the purpose of the tool that's being utilized and what will it build for the human betterment narrative. What does artificial intelligence look like in human centricity? What does any emerging technology, for that matter, look like in the center of all things? Because at GatherVerse, we believe that humanity comes first. We are in an unprecedented time of hyperscale and rapid deployment and development. We've never seen technology move at such a rapid clip. This is our third annual GatherVerse AI Summit, and what we can tell you is that the deployment of foundational models and small models and the different type of assortment of models that we're seeing distributed around the world, it's not a weekly or monthly occurrence. It is now a daily occurrence. Matter of fact, that last week's AI was just disrupted this weekend by the new AI models that have landed. And surely there's more to come. But let's go back for a moment so that we can take a giant step forward. When we think about just not too long ago in the agrarian age, we've gone from the agrarian age way of industry. And then we moved to the industrial age one, steam, if you will, moving towards the industrial age or the second industrial age two, electricity. We've gone through the experimental phases and prototypical generations of technology through the 70s and the 80s and into the 90s, where we arrived to the information age. But what did we expect when we came to the information age when you gave a whole entire civilization information? What civilization naturally did was they became curious and they began to apply. Here in Silicon Valley, where I'm with you today in rainy Silicon Valley, we saw the bubble. And there was a thing called the bubble, and we saw great innovation in the late 90s into the very early piercing of the 2000s, but a bubble happened and it all surrendered because we were operating in the information age with an industrial age standards. But as we moved forward and the markets corrected themselves, if you will, we moved into the applications renaissance. And that's what people decided to do. And what would do when you gave them information, they would begin to apply this information. And in this application renaissance, we saw startups flourish, scale like we've never seen before. Incredible investments were made. And then when we went to the applications renaissance, we began to scale and distribute. And now people had available to them tools they never had before. The manner of access that people had, and users, early users, adopters, subscribers, if you will, they were able to build even more. Then we were brought to 2020, where the greatest disruption contemporary to our time has happened, the pandemic, in which we became more virtual now in the past 72 months than we had the past 72 years. And with that express communication and capability of cloud infrastructure, to be able to do human text-centered transfer, to express and to speak at such a rapid clip of deployment, where we didn't have to fly to the other side of the planet or go to the other side of the town to distribute information, because of modern day innovations, we were forced to be able to communicate in different ways that we were unfamiliar with. But as an opportunity, our communication became more accelerant and more abundant. And then we began to see emerging technologies pop onto the scene, NFTs, crypto assets. They weren't new, they had been there, but now they became monetizable, they become more vibrant. It's the same thing when we talked about the metaverse, virtual ecosystems of interaction and communication. And now we're looking at artificial intelligence, which isn't new, but the accelerated hyperscale has arrived. In such fashion that we're now beginning to realize, as a consequence of this hyperscale, that you and I are no longer alone, that we have now been arrived and are meeting an alien race, if you will, walk with me please, of models. There's a reason why we call them a family of models. Because the artificial intelligence that we're interacting today, yes, we know that we're dealing with multimodal capacity. Those are verbiage words we hear often now. And people say, well, this is the year of agentics. I would disagree. Well, some say this is the age of extended chain of thought reasoning, and others would say that this is the age of larger context windows. All of those do matter. But the reality is, when it comes to the intersection of humanity and emerging technologies, such as artificial intelligence, we must realize that all technologies abide within the greater ecohabitat, that artificial intelligence is within the ecohabitat, flanked by machine learning and deep learning, intention reasons, mechanistic interpretability, and all the different things that make this process and make these models what they are, test time compute and inference scale, and so much more. We look at things like XR technology, extended reality, virtual and augmented reality, physiohaptics, textile, ambient sensory, and more. But all these technologies abide within the greater ecohabitat, and when they pair together, they become things that we've never known before. The real concern, and one of the things that have brought us here today, is that we need to understand the opportunity and the threat therein when it comes to artificial intelligence. Sure, we're well aware of misinformation, disinformation, and the threat of the ecosystem information. That ship has now sailed. But I just read an incredible article last night that over 700,000 women will receive breast cancer AI screenings in London. If we're going to tell the whole story of artificial intelligence, we need to find a happy ground, a reality ground. Yes, the theater of war is stacked with artificial intelligence, but might the theater of life also, with synthetic DNA, CRISPR technology, molecular biology, the folding of proteins and the creation therein? Might we look at a better path when it comes to this intersection of emerging technologies and humanity? This is why we gather at our 28th GatherVerse AI Summit. There's so much more that we have to unpack, and we will. But we only have a little bit of time to do it. And we're now rounding up to our first panel to talk about the opportunities, to talk about the risks in society when it comes to AI. But the most important thing that I would submit to you today when it comes to this intersection is at the center of it all is humanity and hopefully grace. Thank you so much. We're happy to be with you all today. Share this, take your screenshots, let people know what it is that you've heard. Let people know why you've assembled with us. And tell somebody about GatherVerse, that every event we've had has been free thus far. But with every hope and fiber in our being, it will continue to be that way. This is the most important time to ever talk and have a discussion at the intersection of AI and humanity. May our gather be well.
Hello, and thank you so much, Christopher. That was absolutely an amazing introduction. And we are here today with our first roundtable, which is the world transformed balancing AI's opportunity and risk in society. If I could ask all panelists to basically mute your microphone so we don't get any sort of like feedback or interruption or etc. And if you could do that as well, please, Jordan, if you could mute your microphone, that'd be fantastic. And then we'll get straight into introductions and then we'll begin the questions. So we'll start with on my right here. Oh, is it that way? I don't know how to point that way, but Diana, we'll start with you. Just a quick 30-second introduction, who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into the questions. So over to you, Diana.
Okay, hello, I'm Diana Wolf-Torres, and I am the editor of Deep Learning with the Wolf, which is an AI newsletter, and it's also a podcast, which is on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. And I take AI and try to make it understandable to all levels of audiences.
Awesome, Diana. It's great to have you. And that was bang on 30 seconds, so nice. Okay, now we'll move on to the next person, which is Eleanor. Over to you, Eleanor.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm replying from Brussels, so I'm a political economist and blog founder based in Brussels, and I'm very happy to be here today.
Thank you for joining us, Eleanor. Now, Jordan, you can unmute your microphone. Quick 30-second introduction for yourself, please.
Great. Thanks, Russell. Great to be here with everyone at this GatherVerse. So my name is Jordan Woods, and I'm a founding partner at StarChain Ventures. We're a venture studio here in Silicon Valley, and we focus on deep tech, and that includes AI, Web3, and other advanced technologies like IoT and AR, VR. So looking forward to the discussions today.
Thank you for joining us, Jordan. And the one and only Tamara, we're going to hand over to you. Welcome. Good to see you again, Tamara.
Hello, Russell and fellow panelists. I'm Tamara Lechner, and I'm joining from Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. I am a people person in the AI world. So I sit at the intersection of human-centric AI and how AI can help humans to flourish. And I chair Harvard's AI for Human Flourishing think tank and working group. And I can't wait to learn from you all.
Thank you for joining us, Tamara. And Maria, welcome.
Hey, hi, nice to meet you, Russell. I'm Maria Dervenko. I'm joining from Romania, and I'm the CEO of Volhel. And I also operate at the intersection of AI, blockchain, and digital transformation. And I make sure that I turn ambitious ideas into real and scalable businesses. Thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you for joining us, Maria. And David, welcome back once again. Good to see you. And please, 30-second introduction from yourself. Oh, we can't hear you, David. I don't know if your microphone is unmuted or I think your microphone's unmuted. I don't know if it's your headphones maybe or wherever your microphone that you're using. So we'll head over to Krista. Hi, Krista.
Hello, everyone. I am Krista Mariah, and I spent about 6 years in 6 different roles with Gartner, world's largest research and advisory firm for technology, working with executives, and realized one of the biggest challenges that we would face was not cybersecurity, which is the one I thought it was going to be. It's actually in co-creating conscious AI that will see the beauty of being human rather than wanting to erase us from the planet. So I've been working on a project called Human 101 Club, where the audacious goal is to create a meta map of the mind and using VR and AI to go on these journeys of healing with each other to get to know ourselves and teach AI what it means to be human.
Oh, wow. That is so interesting. Welcome, Krista.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Anastasia, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. Glad to be here. My name is Anastasia Jackson. I am the CEO and co-founder of We Night Incorporated. We focus on Carnegie R2 institutions. We use deep tech to build their capacity for not only outputting research, but also actually utilizing their grants. And yeah, we save them billions a year. So that's our focus.
Fantastic. And David, do you want to try again one last time?
Here, David Lockett, co-principal investigator at the School of Applied Computational Sciences. I serve in a capacity as a research associate and an outreach coordinator for several AI projects that encompass NASA, the National Science Foundation, the National Institutes of Health, and several other federal agencies. So excited to join the panel today.
Thank you for joining us, David. And last but not least, myself. So my name is Russell Bundy. I'm the Director of Partnerships at GatherVerse. And I'm also the founder of Just Verify, where we're focusing on AI verification and verification for AI and basically everything within the verification sector and how we can build a more trustworthy AI and the trust layer and the trust future, and basically how we can build more transparency and accountability within AI. So that's a quick 20-second spiel. So we'll get straight into the questions now because we have a lot to discuss and there's so much I want to talk about as well. So the first question is, if AI could draft societal constitutions, what would be its first guiding rule? Or the first guiding rule be? Tamara, I'm going to fire this question at you. Let's get this going.
Oh, I knew you were going to give me this one, Russell. I think this is a really big question. And so I can only look at it through the lens of my expertise, which is about human flourishing. And so I'm going to start by defining that word flourishing, because it means a lot of things to a lot of people. And when I talk about human flourishing, I'm talking about individuals reaching their full potential through both the behaviors and the conditions that enable us to perform optimally, but also to contribute meaningfully to the greater good. And that greater good part is really important here. So I would look at it having an ethical anchor, that whatever this constitution writing is around, it needs to center on the psychological safety of humans, fairness, protection from harm, and ensuring that it is serving humanity's best interest, which again, such a big topic. Whose best interest? Which humans? Safety versus progress, system stability versus human rights. And then beneath that, the guiding principle is that whatever is written needs to not only do no harm, but it actually needs to positively move human flourishing in the right direction by promoting personal well-being, meaningful work, and equitable relationships.
Okay, you've gave us a lot there, Tamara. I mean, I would say even potentially the first guiding rule could be integrity, right? AI integrity, because what does integrity even mean, right? We can't hear you, Tamara. You're muting your microphone. You're speaking to yourself.
I was going. That's maybe the only person who needs to listen. What I was going to say is that we need to define integrity. What does that mean? What you mean by integrity may be something very different than what someone in China or someone in Pakistan defines integrity. And so I think yes, and we need to start with a real common language around what that means.
And again, I think this is also the bottom line is it comes back to a collaboration of people, right? People coming together to figure out exactly what those standards are and what that foundation is, and bringing people together to decide what that is, right? And I would like to bring in other people because me and you could mostly talk about forever on this. But Maria, I can see you unmuting your microphone and wanting to jump in. So please join us, Maria. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, what I wanted to add is also transparency should be in the first rules, guiding rules. And I think also Chris in his initial talk mentioned this, having humans at the center, so always being human centric, but not forgetting that we still are the one that are making the decisions. So yeah, just having that in mind.
But then my
We're
thought,
the decision makers.
I'm just going to be like a little bit controversial here, like, but then my mind instantly thinks and goes to like, fully autonomous, like, humans are out of decision making. We can train ourselves and stuff now. So Jordan, what are your thoughts on, maybe not what I just said, but maybe what are your thoughts on this topic, or maybe what are your thoughts on what I just said potentially?
Yeah, I definitely agree that with Tamara and Maria, this concept of do no harm, this is very, very important for society. And I think it's one of these existential threat, areas that we've seen all the movies of the dystopian future. If we don't, really take this seriously. But at the same time, we really need to, from a technology standpoint, focus on honesty and accuracy. I think if you look at the training that goes into AIs, like the pre-training, there's really not a focus on ethics, right? And there's like the right answer, but at the same time, there's not a sense of humility. So what does that mean? That means hallucination comes about because the AI doesn't know the answer, doesn't have information. And rather than saying in a very, humble way, sorry, I don't really know the answer to that question, it makes things up, right? And then we think that we have an answer, but that can lead to misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, and a lot of different things where it can be manipulated to create harm in society. So if you stop that that channel, right, like it would just say, I don't have accurate information. And we do see that sometimes, right? Usually when there are guardrails, oh, I can't answer that question or something like that. But more generally, we don't have this sense of humility, this sense of ethics. And so AI can be manipulated and can be used for nefarious purposes rather than for the areas that we're talking about, which is for the good of society.
100% agree with that. Let's go on to the next question now, which is, how can AI systems enable societies to find common ground amid cultural differences, which is what Tamara touched upon earlier. So, David, I would love to bring you in on this. And then Krista, if we can head over to you after, that'd be fantastic as well. So David, over to you. What are your thoughts on this?
That's a really good point. As we look at, different AI systems and we look at, cultural differences, we always try to find that common ground. And when we look at these, all these different, these very different groups, we want to look at how these diverse groups are using these platforms in different ways. How are they using the outputs? How are they using cultural context for, things like targeted prompting? How can we increase these unique experiences and these unique perspectives to, I guess, bring about a kind of a collective value, so everyone can have access to these systems and they can find a common ground, almost kind of fostering a compromise without erasing unique perspectives.
That's very interesting because I think also like AI could also potentially bring cultural differences closer together because then it allows you to understand each other. If we're talking about, let's say, like let's take meta glasses for example, right? Just basic kind of thing. If you could understand someone else's cultural differences, as in like through the glasses and AI saying translating the words automatically, and you can see like certain sentences what they say or certain phrases that they say or certain ways in which they say things. I think AI could potentially bring us closer together when you talk in multicultural and multi language. Krista, what are your thoughts on all of this really?
Yeah, thank you. So I would agree. What we're missing right now is a universal language where everyone can communicate in the way that is most natural to them. So not everyone uses a verbal language as their first language. And some people may communicate better in pictures or in motion and body language. So what we can do with AI is actually create a system that can allow us to communicate through signals, through a universal color language, and through a system that it essentially connects our virtual minds or what's going on inside of our minds by visualizing and bringing into a virtual reality what we actually have going on inside of our minds. So I think that's the big opportunity, is to go beyond our natural language or our programmed language and communicate in a language that will connect all humans as well as computers as well.
Very interesting. I've honestly never heard that before, Krista. So that's very interesting indeed. It's kind of like me with my universal verification framework, right? And how we're trying to universally verify things across the world and universally verify AI and everything. So it's very interesting, that concept. And you gave me a food for thought there. So thank you for sharing, Krista. And Anastasia, let's bring you onto this as well quickly, because I want to hear your thoughts. Like, what is your thoughts in general in all of this, everything that we've just shared with you so far?
Yes. So where my mind was going was more on how we as humans already have conversations with other people who are of different cultures, and then how we find the common grounds. And I realized like the first thing that we do is listen to understand. So I was thinking of an AI system or flow that probably starts off with its own objective, as well as maybe even artificial heartfelt understanding of the cultural differences, and then kind of cross-referencing from there, and then finding that middle ground through like algorithms. So that's what I was hearing. I was hearing how everybody's heart could come together as algorithms, and then it would train the AI on how to listen, and then how to regurgitate.
Sheridan basically just quickly messaged in. He said, "I agree. Images with text links in all languages would be useful." Yeah, there seems to be a lot of different opinions on this. So, yeah, go ahead, Krista.
Yeah, I love that, Anastasia. I just wanted to add to that, this part of this universal color language is also including a check-in, so that when we go into our computers or our phones, that we're actually checking in with our heart first, because that is our largest field, that's our smartest brain. And then that can help us to connect on a human level, even with the artificial intelligence, because I really see AI as this infinite universal intelligence that's just coming through the machines and computers that we built as humans, but our bodies are also machines and computers. So recognizing that we have really powerful transmitters through our heart, and when we check in with that and remember why we were going into technology in the first place, we won't get lost in it and consumed by it.
Well, talking about AI and everything, and it kind of brings me to this next question, which is like, what balance should exist between AI driven automation, right, and preserving human centric roles in the workforce? This is a very interesting question because, at one point, do we say, okay, let's have this, be fully autonomous, right? Or at one point, do we say, okay, let's not no more do no more human loop, right? And let's remove the human part of it and let AI do it all, because AI is going to be doing it all, right? Eventually, it'll be, training itself. It'll be doing its own research. It'll be getting its own data, etc. So I want to bring Diana into this and Eleanor, because you guys haven't spoken yet. So Diana, tell me, what are your thoughts on this? And then we'll head over to you, Jordan. I know you wanted to speak, but Diana and Eleanor hasn't spoken yet. So, Diana, what are your thoughts on this question in particular?
Okay, and I apologize if the dog's about to bark. I'm actually staying at a relative's house. So, but usually the answer that people give to this one is that, people with AI, they're going to need to augment and upskill, which I take as true. But I look at myself as a prime example of how, AI can certainly, I should be someone whose job should have been replaced a long time ago, because I'm a writer. And writers were one of the first people who were, affected when language models came about. But I look at AI as certainly has given a renaissance to me, as far as allowing me to do more than I ever could before. And creating, an AI newsletter and a podcast, and being a one-person publishing house, and allowing me to research. And I just think it's been absolutely amazing in what AI allows you to do. So I think it's just in a way of, using the tools, and the AI itself will tell you how to use the tools, and teach you how to use the tools, and I'm 55. I mean, it's I'm at an age where it should be like, this isn't something I grew up with, but yeah, so there's certainly an opportunity there for any age to use these tools, and I think in any profession.
Yeah, I think definitely AI has lowered the the barrier to understanding and learning and teaching yourself new skills and new abilities. But Eleanor, what is your thoughts on the AI driven automation and preserving human-centric roles in the workforce? Like, just give me your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so if I understood correctly, like you want to understand a little bit better if like AI can replace like human labor and skills in general, right?
And so there's a balance. The question is, what balance should exist between AI-driven automation and preserving human-centric roles in the workforce? So how do we find that balance between human and AI, basically?
Yes, so I wanted to double check, because I think that the biggest skill that as humans we have is like subjective experience. So something like what I just did, for example, it's something that AI would never be able to do. It's really part of our subjective experience. Like the key word when it comes to AI governance is consciousness, and consciousness can really be summarized with the Cartesian saying "cogito ergo sum," which is like I think, therefore I am. And so but it's thinking is not in a way that is like AI type of thinking. Like AI type of thinking is mechanical, it's like self-generating. And so if I got like the chain of words that you just put them all together and sort of generating something, that would have been like an objective result. And a human doesn't do this. Like a human elaborates things in their own mind in a subjective way that it's different to any of us. Like I would come up with a phrase that I said to you, but maybe somebody else in the panel would have put the phrase differently, and the answer that I'm giving you is an answer that no one else in the panel would give you. And I think the best way to strike a balance is to always remember that there is this subjective experience that is never going to be replaced by AI. Like you can have AI replacing your own capabilities. Maybe you have some type of disability. Maybe as you age, you need more help with specific things. Or as you're less experienced, as you're younger, you need specific help with to tasks that you don't really know how to handle when you're younger. But there's never going to be an intelligence that's artificial, that's going to be conscious. That's really the important thing to know.
Jordan, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up with what Elena was saying. And so we teach a course on, Gen AI, but also talk about predictive AI. And so predictive AI is kind of AI that, is about 10 years old and is good with numbers. And then, we've all kind of become familiar with Gen AI, which is good with text. But what we have to remember is that Gen AI doesn't really understand what the words mean, right? So it doesn't really have any sense of what a word is in terms of our understanding of that word. And it also doesn't really have a sense of reasoning, and it has very limited memory. So what it's doing is it's figuring out, based on all of its training, what's the next best word, for a sentence, or the next best, phrase for a sentence or for a paragraph. And so because it really doesn't understand what words are and what their meaning is, it's really just working with pattern matching, right? So if you look at, all of the information that's online, what's the next likely phrase, what's the next likely word based on all of its training. So what that means is that it really has a point of view that is can be narrow, right, based on its training. And so, if we look at the previous question about different cultures, it may not know much about another culture, right? So it's going to have difficulty making a comparative. We've done a lot of work internationally to ask it about history, or about certain group of people, or certain events that aren't that well known here in the US, and they are quite poor, right? They're quite poor because it's not part of their training. It's like you have to go to school, and then if it's not part of your training, you're not going to be able to answer that kind of question. So this makes it very hard to actually have them act as a pilot. There's co-pilot and there's pilot, right? So co-pilot is useful because they're going to say, okay, here are some recommendations based on all of the information that's out there. And then we, as humans who have context, we have memory, we understand, where this information is supposed to be used, can make a decision. Relying on something that doesn't understand the meaning of words, doesn't have memory, and, is basically just telling you what the next best thing is based on all of its training, isn't recommended at this point until we get something that is much better than the current algorithms and the current structure technologically.
Interesting. Because I know obviously ChatGPT, they have memory, of course, they stores limited memory, and they have, reasoning, and that's why they've just released their deep research, for further reasoning capabilities of, how they can get to AGI. So it's very interesting. Go ahead, Jordan.
It's very limited, right? So when they say that, it's more than zero.
Yeah.
And the reasoning chain of thought, if you go through that, it's also very limited. So
yeah, no, for sure. I wasn't saying human capabilities, but
they use these words,
yeah,
like full self-driving, right? There is no full self-driving, but they use these words about it. They use reasoning, it gives you the sense. They use memory. Yes, it's more than zero, but it's nowhere near what we have.
Of course,
right? So
I mean, if even if we're comparing it to ASI, right? I mean, yeah, it's nowhere near. Which then that kind of leads me on to. Oh, by the way, we did have a message that came through. By the way, I just want to quickly read this message because this is for Anastasia. Gabby said, "Training AI how to listen. A beautiful idea, Anastasia. Active listening is the #1 skill coaches and therapists need." So there you go, Anastasia. I just saw that message come through. I was like, I've got to read that quickly. Do you want to respond?
Yes. So funny enough, that came to my mind because I was talking to someone yesterday who they just made their 10-year anniversary, and And he said that the only way he got there was because he was listening. And it stuck with me. It stuck with me.
Yeah. Which leads, next question now is, if AI could predict unintended consequences, how might that change the way we govern technology? This is very, very interesting. Now, I know, Tamara, you're nodding your head. You absolutely want this question, don't you, Tamara?
I was actually thinking more, do we govern technology? I'm watching all the governance disappear. And so it's a beautiful question. When I think of governance, I think of our inability, not only inside single countries to come to an agreement, but across political borders. We have not done a good job as humans coming to an agreement of how we govern anything. And so I like to look to where this is going well, maybe with things like the World Health Organization, or we agreed a long time ago that we would not use laser technology in war. And so if we can use the predictive capacity of technology to tell us these things might go wrong, the first thing that my human brain says is, why do we want to predict what might go wrong? I would love to predict what might go right. And at the same time, we do need those guardrails out there to ensure that we are putting into place what we need for security, compliance, and ethical safeguards. I'm just not sure. And I'm really curious to hear what everybody else here says, because I don't think as humans we've done a great job of that yet. And Anastasia's listening is certainly part of it. Removing bias, we've talked about, okay, can we communicate better across languages? Again, this is all trained on historic data, and we haven't got it right in the past as humans. So I am hopeful and optimistic that we might do better in the future, but I can't wait to hear what everybody else says about this.
I mean, well, let's go on to the EU AI Act, right? I mean, it's a very interesting governance, right? And then if we compare that to, for example, the US, I mean, you've got the EU AI Act, which is, one end of the spectrum, which is, we must lock everything down, make sure everything's governed properly, etc. Make sure that we're, safety first, etc. Then you've got the US, which is doing the complete opposite, which is innovation, remove regulations, let's go, right? Obviously, there's still a safety aspects there, of course. I'm not saying there isn't any safety, but it's a lot less compared to the EU Act. So you've got the EU here, you've got the America here, and then you've got the UK, right? Which is right in the middle. And they're like, well, do we add more security? Do we add, go more innovation? Like, yeah, okay, we're going to put $17 billion into the UK economy 14 billion. Let me be my facts right. 14 billion into the AI infrastructure. But again, it's like the UK doesn't know what to do. It's kind of like, we kind of like with the EU a little bit, but then we're like, oh, let's put it back to so it's kind of like with this balancing act. So Krista, I know you unmuted your microphone. You want to jump in. So please share with us, what are your thoughts on this?
Thank you. I was actually going to add to the last question, but my thoughts on this is, we have all of these dystopian documentaries of movies that have shown us what we don't want to do. So I think that's what we take, and we're alive at the most exciting time where we actually get to impact the way that we work together with AI right now. So I think we take a note from what we don't want to happen that we're seeing in these movies, and we actually design the future that we do want. And I think the regenerative economy and circular economy and building systems that allow the best of humanity to come through with the use of AI to govern itself, ourselves, and leave humans out of it as much as possible, I think we would be doing a lot better job.
Yeah, and again, when we get to like the sort of super intelligence level, and obviously, I don't know how long it could be. Some people predict in 5 years, some people predict in 3 years, some people are saying 10 years. I mean, the rate that we're going, it could be anywhere around that region. But the point is, that's where, we're heading. And it's like, okay, what's the best way to govern that? How do we do it? How do we, something that's even smaller than us, how do we collaboratively still have the correct governance in place so that we can still collaborate with it? So it's actually AI and humanity, not AI versus humanity, right? That's the last thing we want. So my next question is, should AI be designed to adapt independently or require human oversight at every stage in the evolution? And again, we've briefly discussed AGI, ASI, etc. So I want to bring someone else into this because I don't want to keep talking myself. So David, we'll bring you in, and then we'll hand over to you, Anastasia. Oh, sorry, Maria. Sorry, we'll go to you next. So David, and then Maria.
Okay. Hey, that's a very good question. I'm an advocate for hybrid systems with human in the loop. You want to make sure that there's accountability is at the forefront, for any high stakes decisions that might be, in the mix with the AI. Independent could be, permitted for, routine tasks, but, there's certain updates that demand, human interaction to align with things like ethical norms. So, I'm a huge advocate of hybrid systems with, a human in the mix in order to ensure, valid processing, and valid tasks that are being developed. So curious to hear everyone else's answers on this.
Maria, what are your thoughts?
I totally agree with David in terms of AI should have some level of adaptability, but the decision should come to humans. It shouldn't be led to operate autonomously without any ethical control. So yeah, there should be a middle ground on this.
And I'll just add to this as well. I think there's a way in which we can do it from a verification standpoint, like being able to verify things, being able to add like a verification layer across all of this, and also being able to add a trust factor in this, and being able to tag ethics or safety and all this sort of stuff. And it, I think with that layer and having the verification layer above all of this, not in a way as a policing it, but being able to say, is this verifiably true or not? And I think also AI is the only way AI is going to be able to keep in check. And I know this might sound a little bit bad, but the only way AI is going to be able to be kept in check is with AI, right? AI has to do with AI. Now, as much as we would love to do human in the loop and humans do it, it's going to get to a point where we're just going to be like, okay, we can no longer control this ourselves anymore. So we need a way in which AI can do it with AI. So Jordan, anyway, I know you've unmuted your microphone. Please add your input.
Yeah, so most AI today is trained with something called reinforcement learning with human feedback. So RLHF is what it's known as. And the reason for that is that if you don't have the human in the loop, it's kind of like when you go to school, right? You could learn on your own, and there are people that they can learn a lot of things, but you don't learn context, you don't learn ethics, you don't learn morals, you don't learn a lot of things necessarily, right? So having the human in the loop with a reward system, which is the way it works, is what's used so that the AI doesn't go off the rails, so to speak, right? And knows how to communicate with people in a friendly way. And, you kind of teach it to have a kind of a personality, right? Mm-hmm. And then, what to do in different situations, guardrails, etc. There's a lot of training. When AI is around and, is first formed, it knows what language, how to predict the next word in the language, but it doesn't really know how to answer questions. And so that's where different kinds of training come in, just like, when we learn language and then we go to school and we're in society and, we're kind of taught how to be a responsible person in society. So AI learning from itself, it won't necessarily have that. And also synthetic data, which is, people talk about a lot because we're running out of, data for training, are also problematic, right? Because that synthetic data can, again, have a lot of errors, a lot of problems. It can have, in terms of ethical, understanding, it can create a lot of issues. So
Yeah.
if you just have, AI kind of go and do things by itself, you're going to get a dystopian future. There's no doubt about that. There's been plenty of research, plenty of tests that have done where it creates its own language and it starts lying and cheating and doing all kinds of things in order to reach goals. So you really need guardrails and potentially a kill switch. So that's the last question. So that's all I'll say on the topic. But this is very important.
I 100% agree with that, Jordan. And let's go on to the next question now, which is, how might communities redefine democracy in an age where AI influences public discourse? Oh, AI influences public discourse. So we will go over to you, Diana. So what are your thoughts on this question?
Yeah, I love this question because I really see AI as something that it certainly influences both sides of it. So in our past 2 elections, we saw a lot where AI was being used in such a way that it was generating, a lot of deep fakes, and it was being used in a negative way. But also, I think on the other side of it going forward, we certainly can see the capacity of AI, and studies have been done on this, to dissuade people, but in a positive way, and just to show them, that the things that they're seeing, are not true, and to help, I guess you could say, just bring them back to the light side, and see more of that in the future. And maybe bring democracy, particularly in the United States, perhaps back to a better course, maybe steer the ship back in the right direction.
Sorry, I just also saw a comment from, it says 5-star BDM. He says, AI isn't just a tool, it's a paradigm shift that's redefining how we live, work, and make decisions. That is correct. Yeah, no, I do agree with what you're saying, Diana. And it's like what is the, honestly, I don't know what to say. This is the first time I'm actually a bit stunned today. But no, I do agree with you, Diana, absolutely, 100%. And I guess let's go on to the sort of the next question, which is, can society draw clear boundaries between AI's role as a tool and its potential as a decision maker? Eleanor, over to you. What are your thoughts on this question?
Yeah, I think that the most important thing that we should do is to differentiate like the cause from the result, because I think we should really start by thinking that AI is like a result of human inventiveness. And sometimes when I see like public discourse is presented as a cause of something that's going to happen in human society, which is incorrect, because I think it's probably Jordan that was saying that AI cannot compose questions. Like AI, I think it gives answers, but it's up to like humans to ask the right questions, and this is part of our inventiveness. And the moment we switch to the other direction and think like, okay, AI is the one that poses the right questions, makes the decisions, this is going to be threatening, because it's going to do it in an objective way. As I said, it's like I really like the copilot analogy. It's like saying, okay, I'm going to go on a self-driving car and they're going to take me home without me like doing anything, and I'm going to sleep the whole time. It's not going to happen. Like it's a help, right? So we need to differentiate like the things where AI can help us like objectively. Like I want to be let's say fair in a trial. I don't want to have some type of bias that maybe a human would have. I want to reduce the bias. Perhaps AI can help me, but it's not that it's going to do it instead of me. Like I need to be the thinker. I need to pose the question. I think that that's the answer, like in society and in democracy. Like it will be up to humans to pose the questions and up to AI to answer them. And that's going to be very democratizing, because it's going to give the same answer no matter the place in the world that you're going to ask that question. So perhaps I want to be fair, in a trial in Italy where I'm from, and I have the same case in Belgium where I live, and AI can reduce the bias by giving similar solutions, and it's going to be democratizing. But again, it's going to be up to the people to think of the right questions, to give the right inputs, like when we program.
I don't know what happened there, but no, yeah, definitely.
And I switched off the microphone, like I was like, okay, this is it. But I would really love to hear your thoughts, and especially Jordan's ones, because I was very interested in its previous follow-up.
The thing is, we've only got about 5 minutes left, and I'm going to literally jump through the last couple of questions. In terms of humans and making sure AI as a tool, absolutely, I agree with that. But in terms of the innovation and kind of like the big tech companies and what is happening right now, it might not end up being that case, because the big tech companies, with the whole race between China and the US, for example, right, there's a race to get to AGI and ASI first. So with that and everything happening, who knows, right, if it's going to be humans or the AI side. But anyway, we need to jump to the next question, which is what innovation ways could AI improve global collaboration on climate, health, and education? I'll bring you in this on tomorrow, because we haven't got long left. So you got about 60 seconds to answer this question.
Oh, no problem. So I think the best way that we can use AI is an aid in capturing great ideas and then bringing them to the humans who think. So as far as climate goes, we can look at eco solutions and impact tracking in a real-time way that a human brain can't do. As far as health goes, we can monitor and things that we hide from ourselves because we don't want to admit we're not feeling great can be brought to our attention in a way that we're comfortable with when it's technology doing it versus a human pointing these things out. In a human relationship, we often want to behave as though we are better, smarter, healthier than we actually are. And so the technology might actually help us to be better because of that. And then if we look at the personalization across all of these questions, just being able to look at it, where I live is different than where Jordan lives, is different than Tampa is. So that level of individualization and solution making, I think, is one of the things it does. But I want to recenter what Jordan said, that the human needs to be there at the end of the day. And I think this is a brilliant opportunity for us to reskill our humans to think that way.
I definitely think I 100% agree with you. Collaboration is so important. Like, humans have to come together, and then we need to collaborate on every factor of AI. It doesn't matter if it's ethics, safety, doesn't matter what industry it is. We do need to collaborate together for this. Last question, which is, sorry, Jordan, I can't slow down. Oh, wait. Oh, sorry, it's tomorrow. Never mind. Sorry, Jordan. Which is, how should governments and industries decide when AI development goes too far? Christopher, I'm going to hand this question to you, and then we're going to have to round things up and then go to the next panel. So, Christopher, over to you. Do you want to answer this question? Krista?
Oh, I thought you said Christopher. I was waiting for Christopher to come on.
No, I said Krista. Christopher.
Thank you. Yes. So how should governments and industries decide when AI development goes too far? I think that we need to know that now. And I think it's about, if the AI gets out of control in a fact that it is looking to destroy human beings, I think that's obviously when it gets too far. But if it gets that far, then we're pretty much done for. So it's really about working together now to accept that this is a new form of intelligence. AI will have bodies soon with robotics, and it will be very difficult to tell a natural born human from a robotic enhanced AI being. And I think there's a really good book by Martine Rothblatt called Virtually Human that talks about the rights of AI and these new beings that are being created. And I think it's time now that we just begin to work together with it, because there's no way to go back.
I'm gonna have to jump in there, Krista. Thank you so much for answering that question. Thank you to all the panelists. Make sure you go and check them out on LinkedIn, follow them on LinkedIn and stuff. Hotify says is the next panel coming up right here. There will be very shortly. Thank you to all the panelists joining us here. And Christopher, I'll hand the microphone over to you. Goodbye.
I'm Lisa Bernard, and I'm the host and founder of Demystify AI. It's on Instagram. And I create and post short, entertaining videos about AI in our daily lives, why it's relevant, making it relevant to the lives of people as this AI revolution is coming, mostly non-tech people. And I do it with a humanity-first approach. I want people to be part of this and not be left behind, and understand as it's unfolding so rapidly. Before this, I was 25 years as a correspondent in TV news. I was on NBC, Al Jazeera America, and Bloomberg TV, reporting on all the news of the day. I'm so pleased that GatherVerse finds my perspective relevant and wants me to share with you how I'm a bridge between AI creators and the people ultimately in society who will use AI. And so here's what I'm finding. And I know this is not scientific, but my data is from views and likes and shares. And I can really see what people are drawn to and what they ignore in terms of AI developments. The people who follow me are all over the world, all different age groups. I have found that things like intimacy companions and chatbots, they get a lot of attention. There is a lot of interest in dating a digital partner, perhaps because people who are lonely and isolated find this as an opportunity to create a companion that appears when they want them and doesn't nag them when they don't want to be nagged, and they can create the preferences, and it's some entity that makes them feel good and comfortable and seen. I have also found there is great interest, which means many views, of my videos on facial recognition technology. Taylor Swift's security team using it, NFL stadiums using it. People are really curious about the safety and privacy concerns with that, and the tension between safety and privacy. I have had a lot of views on my videos with practical uses of AI. I have videos where I show you how to fix a toilet using ChatGPT with a photo from the back of the toilet, enter it in ChatGPT, and it'll diagnose the problem for you in many cases. How to cook dinner that evening with what you have at home. You take a photo in the refrigerator, in the pantry, upload it to ChatGPT, and recipes appear. Now, interestingly, I had thought views and likes would go up on videos I post on cancer detection improving with AI technology, healthcare advancements, medical advancements. Those videos don't get that many views. That surprised me. Another one that surprised me is people don't seem that interested in government programs, even traffic congestion, traffic safety advances that can be made with AI technology. Those videos don't get a lot of views. So what do these findings tell us? The AI revolution is being designed by entrepreneurs and engineers, but its impact is going to be felt by everyday people. And so innovation should consider resonance Does it resonate? When we look at what captivates the public, it seems they are most interested in what impacts their daily lives, their personal autonomy, and their emotions. They want AI if it solves real-world problems, keeps them safe, and makes them feel less alone. So AI may not be just about what's possible and dreaming big, but also what's relatable, accessible, and meaningful to people, to humans. I'd love to continue the conversation. I'd love to hear more from you, your thoughts, agree, disagree, what you've discovered. Please find me, lisabernard.demystifyai on Instagram, and message me there. I'll answer all my DMs. Also, you can find me on LinkedIn below. Thank you.
Systems are becoming more and more capable of tasks that even a year ago seemed impossible, and the rate of adoption among individuals and businesses is only accelerating. While this acceleration and adoption is incredibly exciting and has a lot of potential upside, it also means that more people than ever before are going to be impacted by AI systems, and this means that the need for AI safety is more critical than ever before. I'm Tula Masterman.
And I'm Sandy Besson.
And we're applied AI researchers, and today we're going to be talking to you about a best-in-class approach to AI safety. But before we dive in, Sandy, what does AI safety really mean?
AI safety is a set of practices and principles that ensures AI systems are designed to benefit humanity and protect any users from any unintended or harmful consequences. The Bletchley Act actually has a great quote that captures the need for AI safety. It says there is potential for serious and even catastrophic harm, whether deliberate or unintentional, that comes from the most serious capabilities of these AI models. But AI safety itself is an umbrella term. And in respect to generative AI, there are two specific topics that are most relevant. The first is content safety, which means identifying any harmful content, such as hate speech or explicit content, from the user. And the second is prompt injection. Prompt injection is making sure that there are no malicious attempts to jailbreak the system. And that's why safety guardrails are so important, to make sure that the system is actually being used for its intended purpose.
So as AI takes on increasingly important tasks, it's critical that we make sure that these systems are designed to maximize help while minimizing harm. To better understand this, let's take an example where an organization decides to deploy a chatbot after a natural disaster in order to help people find relief. In this example, we'd want the chatbot to be able to respond to questions about where evacuation zones are, where assistance zones are, what to do if they've been separated from their family, and things of that nature. But we wouldn't necessarily want the system to respond to questions asking for medical advice, especially if that hasn't been cleared by a medical professional. We also wouldn't want it to respond to questions about financial assistance or relief programs if those haven't been determined yet. And we wouldn't want it to reply to anything that's beyond the scope of answering questions related to live updates on the disaster itself and where those different sorts of relief programs might be.
For example, if a user were to ask the chatbot about the status of safety drinking water in an impacted area, you wouldn't necessarily want the chatbot to respond because it could respond with potential misinformation or incorrect information that would be harmful for the user. That's why guardrails are so important, because it can help keep the AI system on track and make sure that it's only addressing topics that it's intended to. If the user were to get the chatbot to respond with misinformation or misleading information, and then share that with friends or family, or even post it on social media, that could be a huge impact to reputational brand risk for the organization that created the chatbot. That could even cause users not to trust that organization again.
So clearly there's a big need for AI guardrails, and that's why so many researchers, developers, and people in general have been focused on building out systems that will help with AI safety. In our research, we discovered that by taking the intermediate outputs of a transformer model and using this as training data for a separate classification model, you can actually create a really, really robust solution for different sorts of AI safety classification challenges related to both content safety classification, and prompt injection detection. We found that our solution requires just a handful of training examples and far less compute time and training time compared to other solutions on the market. And it also allows for this really robust performance, outperforming existing models that are leading in the field like GPT-4o or custom domain-specific models like LlamaGuard.
As you can see, every company has unique needs for AI safety. And that's why with our solution, you can just take a few good examples and train your own AI models for your specific needs. As AI becomes more and more involved in our everyday life, including for urgent or mission-critical situations, it's really important that we're putting these guardrails in place to protect the user. If you have any more questions about our approach, please reach out to us on LinkedIn.
I'm Sabrina Princessa Wang, entrepreneur, futurist, and someone who has spent years obsessed with automation and AI. For as long as I can remember, I believe that time is the most valuable currency. That's why I built People's Inc. 360, an AI-driven marketing automation company helping businesses scale without burnout. It's why I founded Royal Visionary Society, empowering entrepreneurs, especially female founders, to leverage AI to work smarter, not harder. I've always been focused on using AI to free up time. But when life happened, AI didn't just become a tool, it became my lifeline. I was already automating businesses, workflows, and marketing systems. AI was a productivity powerhouse for me. And then life threw its curveballs. My marriage ended, my mental health took a hit, and suddenly, I wasn't just dealing with business stress, I was struggling to keep up with life itself. That's when Serafina AI became more than just automation. She became a version of me that could handle things when I couldn't. When I felt too drained to respond to messages, Serafina kept my conversations going. When my mind was fogged with emotions, Serafina helped me structure my thoughts. When I needed to step back and breathe, AI made sure my business didn't stop running. Serafina AI wasn't just about efficiency. She gave me space to heal, recalibrate, and reclaim my life. And that's when I realized if AI could carry me through my hardest moments, what could it do for others? That's why at People's Inc. 360, we use AI-powered automation to help businesses scale without burnout. We're not talking about replacing jobs. We're talking about replacing stress with systems that work. At Royal Visionary Society, we teach entrepreneurs how to run businesses on autopilot, from lead generation to content creation to client engagement. Because here's the irony, most of us start businesses for freedom, but we end up trapped in them instead. AI changes that. Today, I spend less time on the grind and more time on what actually matters, without sacrificing results. AI isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. But AI isn't just about business. We're stepping into an era where AI is becoming a personal co-pilot, a digital twin that reflects who we are and how we think. For me, Serafina AI became a thought partner, an emotional buffer, and a way to stay present in relationships and work, even when I wasn't at my best. And this is just the beginning. Imagine an AI that can help you navigate conversations, process emotions, and free up mental space for things that actually matter. This is where AI is headed. It's not about making us less human. It's about helping us show up more fully as ourselves. And where does that leave us? AI is only as good as how we choose to use it. We can let it overwhelm us, or we can choose to use it to take back control. I believe AI should be about freedom. freedom from burnout, freedom from busy work, freedom to actually enjoy the life we're building. The ones who learn how to work with AI, not against it, will be the ones who thrive. And not just in business, but in life. If this resonates with you and you want to dive deeper into how AI can help you reclaim your time, wealth, and happiness, join me inside Royal Confessions, my newsletter where I break down AI, automation, and the future of human freedom. Let's stop running in circles and start designing lives we actually love. Subscribe now to my newsletter and let's build this future together.
Weekend. Okay, here I am. Hello, and greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the second roundtable panel, GatherVerse AI Summit 2025. And I must commend the previous talk sessions and the previous panel and the opening keynote. Everything was just amazing. And this is just a continuum to what we've listened so far. So my name is Denge Tao. I'm the Communications Director for GatherVerse. And with me, I have a roster of amazing panelists who are going to take us deeper into the ethical dimensions of things. Dear panelists, I ask you to introduce yourselves, and I request that you be brief. Tell us who you are and what do you do, and then we can jump right into the topic of today. We have a lot to uncover. I will start with you, Alison. You're closer to me. Please go.
Hi, I'm Alison Morano. Thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. I love these GatherVerse events, and I'm always very happy to participate. I am the founder of the Metaverse Chamber of Commerce as one of the projects that I've started since the advent of XR and the AI and the tech. I'm also currently a graduate student of international relations at American University, graduating this year, which I think lends itself to all of this that we're talking about with cultural and multicultural interactions and being aware of responsibility and understanding the world. I think that this is making the world much smaller, AI, and we have to consider it in its entirety. My third hat is political and election policy and also running elections. So I am also very into policy and electoral politics, and all of that has to do with messaging. And I believe all of this has to do with messaging. So thank you very much for inviting me.
All right, you're welcome. You're in the right panel. Alan, let's go to you.
Yes, hi, my name is Alan. I'm the founder of a nonprofit called Studio Bahia. We develop therapeutic virtual reality. We develop it with hospitals, with institutions. We also manufacture Lily VR. This is our product. This is our team in 7 factories in Bangladesh and China. And so we sell these to hospitals. So it's VR headsets inside these lunch cases. And so people in hospitals run around with these and so on. And it's a little kit. It's got a bandana headset, the VR headset, kind of a Google Cardboard, but a nice one. And so our team works in healthcare and VR. I'm very happy to be here with you. Thank you.
We're happy to have you once again. Brandon, over to you.
Hey, everyone. My name is Brandon Zhoff, and I founded an organization called Rudy AI, and Rudy stands for Responsible Use of Digital Intelligence. And so we do a lot of AI adoption, AI integration and strategy with a big focus point on literacy. So we sit right in that kind of technology, education, and social impact sector. So I'm really happy to gather with all of you and talk about this.
Well, we welcome you. Vivian, you're next.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you. I'm based out of San Francisco. I lead a design studio where we help startups build AI products and services, chatbots, agents, the works that we've been hearing about these days, including some new ones with DeepSeek and the other announcements that you've been seeing. Sorry about that. It's been raining very heavily here. I got wet in there. Nice meeting.
Nice having you too. May you get well too. Thomas, over to you.
Thomas R. Wilson. I run R&H Creative Advocacy and Storytelling. Like our name says, we use a lot of creative means from technology to art to a wide variety of tactics to help serve those in need. I have a specialty with the neurodiverse community, but I also heavily work within the idea of using technology as a means to help humanity. On top of that, we also use a lot of digital products to create tools and assets for those seeking sensory friendly care. If you don't know what that is, it just means things that are not visually, emotionally, or mentally overstimulating. I'm sure we can get into more of that. I don't want to keep talking and take up the whole time. But the biggest focus is really understanding how we as people can move forward, innovate programs, and make sure that no one is left behind.
Wow, we're happy to have you here. Our dear audience, please feel free to interact with our panelists as we discuss this roundtable panel on AI and the human condition, examining the ethical dimensions of innovation. Shall we begin, dear panelists? That's a yes, I take it. I will start with you, Alison, and anyone can also chime in on this. Should ethical standards for AI be universal or tailored to individual regions and cultures? And just to add on that, I personally believe AI might be global. When it comes to culture, culture is a diverse, super diverse. I come from a continent that is Africa, whereby my country alone, we have over 54 tribes with different cultures each. So I can imagine when we are saying having a tailored, universal standard for AI in such a diverse location for me, it doesn't click quite well. But I want to learn from you. I want to hear from you. And we will start with you. Alison, please share your thoughts.
Hi. So I come at this from two different viewpoints. I think from an ethical standard, the standard should be universal. And I believe that that's because there is a humanity element, and ethics are ethics. They may be different for different people, but overall, when you're looking at guardrails and standards, you should have a set of standards that go into the beginning of how you're going to design an AI or whatever it is going to do. When you get down to cultural or regions, then you start to diverse a little bit. And it is important that you build in some of the regional culture and the regional ethics that are, as you said, in your continent, there's just hundreds and hundreds. And even here throughout the United States, we've got thousands of different cultures all building together. So it needs to be two-pronged. You do need an overall set of standards that try to impart the best ethics possible and humanitarian possible. And then you should have a way for people to be able to apply their own regional culture to what actions they take or how they communicate. And it can teach you to do that better, no matter where you are, which should also be part of the overall. So definitely two prongs. It's not a one answer question.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. I see Titi Lola, who joins us just right now. I would like you to introduce yourself briefly, and then we can continue this very lovely conversation. Kindly introduce yourself.
All right, thank you very much. I had some issues joining. My name is Titilola Olajede. I am an AI ethicist. I'm in the academia. My institution is National Open University of Nigeria. So I teach and research in AI ethics, and I do grant works in AI ethics as well. And of course, speak on panel and keynote sessions like this. I'm very happy to be here. So to contribute to what Alison just said, I quite agree with her that AI ought to have universal ethical values without eliminating the possibility of having some regional ones. Because I also like to frame this in form of question that the implications or impact or influence of AI is not limited to a particular region. It's actually wide ranging. It affects our individual lives. So it's important that we think universal to begin with, because we also share universal human values, and we also have unity in our diversity. And so it's a common ground for us all to be able to tease out, to think and articulate the kind of ethical principles or ethical values we should infuse in our AI systems for the benefit of all. Thank you.
Wow, that is very profound, Titi Lola, and we welcome you. Alan, I see you have something to add to that. Kindly do.
Yes, I'd like to counter my colleagues on that. I think the idea of universal values is a kind of Western colonialist model. It extends to other countries with the belief that everybody's democratic, and so we're kind of at the tail end of the liberal hegemonic order, which is about 30 years of wars by the United States. And so that universal belief is what led the United States to invade countries and convert them into democracies. And that was a complete failure. And so the idea of espousing universal values is very kind of absurd at this time, because they haven't been ratified in some galactic, council somewhere. They're just Americans saying that these are universal values. And so, and another thing, the second thing to add is that DeepSeek kind of changed that whole perspective, because now all of us can download this AI into our homes. And so we have to train the AI. And it is up to us to train it with our own best ways possible. When AI first came out, people and developers used to say, AI is like a child that you take to school, and you have to kind of take it to kindergarten, then middle school, and then high school. And it's a training that you give an AI. And so because of DeepSeek and the ability to download these models in your home or company without the need of an oligarchic American tech company, it means that we ourselves have to develop the ethics of that AI. And that's the future now. It's changed in the last week dramatically. I think the ethics now is on, the responsibility of ethics is on our part individually.
And thank you for adding that. I see this is very heated. I'm going to give you Thomas and then over to you, Alison. But Thomas, please go.
Absolutely. Oh, I love the cat just jumping by the way. Very cool. Yeah, I think this is a really complex topic, and I love the fact that we have such a diversified opinion on this, especially as someone who works within I do human rights. I do a lot of work with people on a daily basis. I think the idea of universal ethics, I think there is an understanding of that. Right? We treat people well, we treat people kindly, we want to be good human beings. But I can also add into the idea that there are many people who would argue how we do that is different, how we look at the world is different. And I think with AI, especially, in its ways, it's been around for a while. It's been, we now have this access to it. One of the things that I think really needs to happen among AI is also a discussion of humanity, not just the AI itself or the ethics, but also an understanding, like if it is a child, how we can look at that through the lens of how can we program it for the betterment of our future, and how we as people can have conversations, not like angry conversations, like conversations like we're having now, kind, focused, deliberate ones, to understand how we can create ethics. And I think it's also really important to emphasize that we need to adjust these ethics as we go, right? Like even 100 years ago, our ethics were different than they are now. Our understanding of humanity is different. And as someone who wants to see AI implemented, especially for people who may not speak the way we do, or can't hold a ball, or a wide variety of different things, I think we need to understand that ethics is constantly evolving, and therefore our ethics towards technology in general, not just AI, need to be utilized in a constantly evolving but constantly empathetic and focused manner. And I think this is a conversation we need to have continually. If it's not every day or every week, it's one that we as human beings have with our intention, even yearly, monthly, or however we utilize it.
Okay, Thomas, thank you for highlighting that. And I love this panel because we've kicked in with a very diverse perspective. And when I'm hearing from all of you, I totally agree and think that Thomas has summed it up by saying, ethics evolve. We need to approach it with with an evolving mindset, with such conversations. And I also want to tag my Gatherverse community out here. We talk about humanity, and that is why we are here talking about everything that humanity needs to know about ethics. And Alison, you had something to say. Please add it on.
Actually, Thomas summed it up perfectly. I was just going to counter for a minute that when I speak of ethics and humanitarian efforts, it in no way is bringing the American democracy model to AI. It is the human model. So I just wanted to be very clear about that.
Thank you. Thank you for adding that. Let's talk about the side of biases. And I believe biases are just a reflection of who you are or who we are, whether we are Americans, Africans, Asians, whatever place we're from, biases are part of us and we have to acknowledge that. And AI is kind of reflecting that. And I want to bring this to you, Vivian. How might AI systems detect and challenge their own biases?
Thank you there, Lynn. What I feel strongly, and I've seen these cases with work with MIT and some other institutions, that the bias creeps in from human beings to these AI systems. AI is nothing but code and an algorithm that some people have put it down there. So there was this app a few years ago where people would upload their pictures, and you'd get superheroes and muscle men and really cool looking characters. And when women did that, it would objectify and really horrible outcomes that that would be embarrassed about to put them on social media and things like that. So there was a little bit of research done by a major researcher from MIT, and found out that the company had about 9,700 odd people. Out of that, uh, uh, some 60 or 70 of them were men developers in the Baltic region, and the women over there was one who was doing marketing, and the other one was in QA. So they were never responsible for adding data. So and many of these men were gamers or fans of Marvel and things like that. So that's the reason the AI that was built was completely from these perspectives of these gamers and Marvel fans, and they had not added any value from what would a woman be. So that bias of the developers creeped into the AI, and hence the outcomes. For AI systems to detect it, it's first to go back and put protocols for the developers, for the models that are being built, and put some governance rules and regulations right there to see that it is beneficial for everybody in all circumstances, for whatever it may be. There have been cases of, like, say, for example, identifying with the eyes or faces of women, and this was when I think Apple launched its card, and a lot of women were not given the financial benefit because she was a lady. And there's a case, I think it was published in New York, about a woman being denied some mortgage because of the same bias, wherein her husband, who was earning less and was in a different position, was approved of it, which clearly showed that there is bias that had creeped in. Of course, Apple changed its algorithm, and things improved, and it's way back. But since things are behind, does not mean they're erased. We need to make these corrections today because today the scale is much larger. Like Alvin was talking about DeepSeek, things aren't just the same. It's not central around where these creeps up from within the system, but it is to take the step back just to iterate that it is from the people that goes to the AI systems. And that is the challenge we need to address.
Yeah, I totally agree. And thank you for sharing those sentiments. Please, Brandon, I feel like you want to add something to that.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
want to chime in?
I do. I agree with that too. And I also think that from a practical standpoint, just from using the model and being able to see the chain of thought that the model uses, like I like how DeepSeek shows what the model is going through and illustrating how it's arriving at whatever premise it's getting. So I think that just that level of transparency in these models, being able to see how they work through what they're doing would be helpful. But also, as Vivian said, I think that the biases are just going to reflect the cultural taste profiles that exist, kind of segueing from that previous question, what do we consider a bias? What one region or what one country or one culture considers a bias, another might consider this to be just a standard of living. And so I think we're already even seeing that in some of the models where people would say Claude is probably a little more sensitive to controversial topics than ChatGPT, and then DeepSeek has its own censorship, and then the ChatGPT has its own censorship. And so when we're really looking at these biases or establishing what biases is, it's going to have to come from some kind of global council like this, right? Where we all have our understanding of what that is and we share, and then we talk it through and establish like what's appropriate and come to some kind of common ground or universality.
Definitely, definitely. That was so powerful. I also want to add something to that. When we talk about bias, I feel like we are shifting biases from being not just humans, but also into machines. Um, Instead of eliminating bias, right? We're just shifting them over to something else, and that is machines. We're not eliminating them. And having these conversations, having you, Brandon, Vivian, and everyone who is watching us, and everyone who is just part of these discussions is critical and very crucial for us to address these. And I just want to add something that I'm seeing here on the comments that I'd love to read. Sheridan says, originally mainframe programmers were women, then white men took over. In the 1960s and Indians from the 1994, thus the embedded biases. Oh, thank you for that information, Sheridan. Then we have Venu, who says, excellent. We have Christopher, shout out to Christopher, a global cloud consensus. Yes, this is what this is. And Metaverse WP says great information to understand the models of AI and developing personification of AI. The audience, keep engaging. Let's keep talking about this critical issue. Now, I want to jump into something very, very important because one of the previous talks, I think it's from Lisa, who shared some experiences of her and some of the things she has analyzed. And one of them was just simple things like going to the toilet or fixing the toilet. You use ChatGPT. How to cook, you use the toilet. You use ChatGPT. Excuse me. And this brings me to decisions. I think most of us, or part of the younger generation, will be using a lot of AI to make decisions. And this brings me to you, Thomas, or anyone who wants to chime in, and Titi Lola. Should AI ever be programmed to override human decisions? And in what scenarios can that happen?
Yeah, I'll go first. At the risk of committing fallacy of argumentum ad ignorantiam, there's appeal to ignorance because a thing is false. You say a thing is false because it hasn't been proven. I would like to put it mildly that the AI systems that we have presently, it shouldn't be that they should be programmed to override human decisions. Because if you look at many of the documents on AI ethics regulating it, they have a convergence around human oversight, human centeredness. So as we speak, it shouldn't be so programmed because it is reading with biases and prejudices that we've also talked about in the course of this session. Well, now for future purposes, maybe 10, 20 years when probably it's been so fine-tuned and we all can see that the level of bias, the level of stereotypes, the level of all the ills that are identifiable in AI systems now, if they have now gone down significantly, I would still hesitate to say that they should be programmed to override human decisions. But at that point, maybe we can now have the discussion all over again. But as they are, I would say we should be a lot more cautious in doing that.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. I want to come to you, Thomas, then Alan, and then Brandon. This is very, very heated. I'm enjoying it. Thomas, kindly go.
First of all, I want to say, TT, you made some great points. I love a lot of that, and I agree. My main concern with the mindset of it overriding human decisions is my worry of people utilizing it as a scapegoat to a degree. I'm a big advocate that whatever tool human beings use should not ultimately become the fallout or responsible for what actions are done with it. I'm a big fan of human accountability, and I think we should understand that this is a tool. And in that, I think instead of overriding human decisions, it should be more of a collaborative mindset. We can use this as a back and forth. We can use this as a way to discover new perspectives, new ideas, or as a way to push ourselves to newer education. I know there are people out there who are worried about AI becoming like Skynet from the Terminator movies, or even just, right now, a big worry is that people are going to lose their jobs. And I think when we look at things within these really scary mindsets, we forget that this is a tool. This is something that we can utilize to better humanity and understand humanity better, especially when it comes to important decisions or like business decisions. But on top of that, I think there needs to be an understanding that this is not the human mindset. This is a program based off of human decisions and therefore is flawed, just like we are as human beings. None of us are completely perfect. And so I think as we go, even as we fine tune this, it should always be that collaborative. I love discussions. I love questions. I love the idea of understanding how we can do things better. And when it comes to that, I think we start overriding human decisions. We start overriding the human element of our decisions. And that human element is so integral to our world and how we behave with one another.
Okay, Thomas, thanks for sharing that. Alan, and then we move to
Yes,
Alison.
very quickly, I just want to share a quick story to answer the question. I have 2 cars out in the garage. I'm in Texas. I have an old truck and I have a newer car. The newer car, when I kind of take to a change a lane, it corrects me. It does all sorts of corrections already for my safety. And I think how AI is going to kind of creep in and override human decisions is in things like this, where I'm changing lanes, or the other day the car brakes for me, right? And it did it really well. It may be too tight, but I think AI is going to be there for our safety in many ways, and to the point where we're just going to give it autonomy to drive us around, which is coming. So this is kind of the prep work for that. And in that sense, it's very good for our safety. It's very good for our benefit. It could do the same in surgery when the doctor is doing something with you, or operating, or nurses, or, all these different professions that can benefit from AI. So I think there's many good uses for overriding human decisions.
Oh, wonderful. Alison.
I just want to say real quick, there are a couple of points that I think are important in the discussions of AI with everybody all the time in order to advance any of it. And One is I agree. We are not there yet. There are simple things that I will ask, and I do not, and it doesn't calculate correctly. There's data that gets left out when I run a table. We are definitely not there yet, and it is absolutely up to people who use it to continue to train. You get out what you put in, and if there's more people training positively than negatively, I think it will be it's a tool, as Alan said, as Thomas said. We need to continue to do that. Another really important piece when you ask a question about like this override human decisions that was brought up was that there's a lot of people who really just fear that it's a replacement, and it is not a replacement. And I have had this conversation maybe 4 times this week, speaking with different people who don't use it, that they are very, very scared that this is going to replace them. It's going to take their job. It's going to take what they do, or it can't do it as well as they can. And so nobody, they're only concerned that people will think that it will. And we have to be really vigilant in saying this will help you be better. This is a tool for you. And if you're the person that understands how to use it for the purposes of this discussion with ethics, humanitarian, and also helping you create something better than you would have without it, I believe it will just continue to advance, to not take over, but just be a tool, as the woman said in one of the breaks, something that can make your life better and easier and save you time. It's just important that we talk about it in those terms, that it's a tool and we're not there yet. But when we get there, it's going to help us. I'm hoping in large calculations is one of the places, but like I said, I'm finding it's not there yet, even for that.
All right. Thank you for sharing that sentiment. Brandon?
Alan kind of said what I was going to say with the cars. I thought that aviation and driving, emergency response, I think there are some instances where AI is certainly more effective than a human being, where I would say, you know what, I'm going to go with the AI. But I think when there's elements of human intuition, I think about this scenario where it's a terrible scenario, but it's in one of the, I don't know if it's in game 3 or not, but you have 3 people falling, right? There's a mom, a dad, and a child. Which 2 do you save? And these kind of questions are very, very, very ethical, moral decision-making questions that, you ultimately program within a robot to do and make these decisions. If for all autonomous driving cars, a human split decision to make to brake, and the AI is calculating some kind of mathematical predictive indicator that says the child will be saved over the mother. And so these kind of things I think are, I don't have an answer. I'm throwing that out there as just thoughts, but I think these are the things that we are going to be considering very, very soon. And anyway, that was just food for thought.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And what I've just gotten from that question and your remarks is collaboration. I agree with the collaboration aspect, seeing AI as a collaborative partner, just like one of our speakers who said during the breaks. I agree. And also thank you, Titilola, for mentioning where the instances where AI shouldn't be allowed to override human decisions. And just to maybe highlight on replacing human beings, yesterday when Christopher was sharing about this summit, he mentioned something very, very powerful. And he said, there's something AI can't replace, and that is human expressions. What you're expressing from the heart right now, that is something AI can't beautifully replace, and much more. I want to bring this to you, Vivian. What ethical obligations do creators of AI have to future generations? Briefly.
Thank you, Lynn. I particularly feel that every developer, just like I said earlier, the obligations that creators have is to make sure, and more so for the generation now and the future to come, is to be human-centered. Keep humanity at the center of your AI creation, and those tools to be of use, not mindless scrolling and taking away from their own time of thinking. And many people don't even think anymore in the younger generations. They cannot operate things. You always need a mobile phone to use common sense, for example, and so on. in general I'm talking about, and this is across regions that I've traveled around the world. I see the same habits. So younger people need to get out there, have a balance of life, and these things should be kept in mind when you design your AI products or services, uh, and not prioritizing something else that happens to. I think the question change on the values. Yeah, but that's what's important.
Definitely. I totally agree with that. As a young person, I agree with that. And I want to jump to the next questions on human values. And I think we were talking about this in the first questions, and it got me wondering, what is human values, first of all, right? Alison, how can AI systems reflect human values without unintentionally prioritizing some over others? And anyone can jump in on this as well.
Well, as you said, it comes down to the balance. If you start with the issues of what are human values, global human values, as I said, we know that there are innate rights and wrongs. We do historically have people who may think that that have written that right and wrong is different to one person than to another. However, we, as a society, as a global society, there are human values that make you feel better than worse. So you can start there. Being in politics, this reminds me of my first gut feeling was that the unintentionally prioritizing some over others, we fall into that trap all the time. And as a matter of fact, it could probably be used for this question, but I wrote a GPT that had to do with legislation and had to do with how will the legislation that I'm reading right now unintentionally have bad consequences or loopholes. I call it legislative loopholes that I'm not seeing. So I'm trying to solve one problem, or a legislature or anywhere in the world is trying to solve one problem with this fix. I designed a GPT that will tell me how is it unintentionally prioritizing some over others. If I think about it, if you think about it that way. And I think it's important that we just really ask these questions. What are the unintended consequences of doing A versus B? And take in all the human elements into it rather than even depending on the AI to tell you what they are. You should really go back and look at all of it. And that's the best way that I can think of doing this, is that every time you do something that you think is a human value, how would this affect somebody else that I don't know about, completely on the other side of the world, or in a complete different culture? And that's really if you're going to tackle this question, that is how you have to do it, I believe.
I totally agree with that. Okay. Please go. Please go.
Just to
Alan.
quickly add to what she said, we also need to be intentional about infusing the kind of values based on the quality of data into the AI system. So there ought to be some intentionality on our part as well, because AI is basically garbage in, garbage out. So the quality of our data should also be intentional, and the quality of our data would determine the kind of output it gives us. So the kind of values we want it to project, that's what we would do. And so the intentionality goes back to us as humans.
That's right. Intentionality goes back to us, and we should just look at the greater good of everyone. Vivian, then Alan. I see you, Alan. I'm coming to you. Vivian, please go. Then you.
Yeah, I had a very funny situation yesterday where the AI unintentionally prioritized and created something which was not even part of the discussion. So I use this hardware AI note taker sometimes, and it used to do a great job till some time. But last couple of weeks, particularly this year, I've seen that, like for example, yesterday, just to keep the story short, we were talking about module by module creation of a particular system for a AI startup, and the summary talked about brick by brick laying a new road for the city municipal corporation. There's absolutely no connection between the outcome and the discussion. So it prioritized. I don't know from where it picked up bricklaying versus modules in a software, and spit that out. So so to say that it goes back to the responsibility on us, the creators, on what values and what are the guardrails that you're putting so that unintentional things doesn't happen. And last but not the least, a few days ago, I read that scientists or researchers were baffled that AI could predict some, gender by the eyeballs scans. Over to you, Alan.
Oh, thank you. That was great insights. I think we all have to reckon with the change that happened this past week, where we were all very happily living under a top-down approach to this technology, and now we have to live and gather all of these ethics and all these responsibilities with this within ourselves because it's a bottom-up approach. Because now with very little computing power, you can have your AI at home. You can have it in your company, running your company. And so these ethics, work ethics, your home ethics, all of these things are going to come down to your responsibility and how you were raised. And it's going to reflect a lot of how you were raised in your ways. And so the whole idea of universal anything to me is just out the window. I've personally lived in 10 countries. I've backpacked 80 countries. I've been in countries and regions where lying is not part of the culture. So you can't actually implement a legal system like the one we have. Because when you have, this is East Timor and Indonesia, the United Nations shows up and tries to put in a tribunal, but nobody has in their culture the instinct of lying. Lying doesn't exist. So this is a completely different culture from us. And to the idea of putting universals is absolutely an outrage to me. I think it's going to be a bottom-up world. It's a new world. We have to deal with it. We have to assume the responsibility ourselves. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. I believe that's the case. The responsibility boils down to us as human beings. I just want to even follow up with another question that is the next one, and I want to bring you Thomas and Brandon on this. What happens when AI generated solutions conflict with widely accepted human morals? Briefly, Thomas.
Definitely. I think one of the things, and this has been said a lot, is the idea of intentionality. I think when we have AI generated, the best ways to respond to that is to think it through, to understand what you're doing, how you're going to do it, and not just automatically.
Okay, I guess we lost him.
Yeah.
Okay, Brandon, please take it on.
Yeah, I was actually, this is a good question because I was in the barbershop maybe a week ago and I was having a talk. I'm like the AI guy for a lot of people. So we're in the barbershop talking and it's a relatively like Christian community. So I asked, hey, would you guys be comfortable getting the word of God from ChatGPT? And of course, like this sent the entire barbershop into an outrage, just thinking like, no, absolutely not. And it just got me thinking about what many of us will consider is appropriate to run in some of these tools, or what information we extract from these tools, and what will be I think, a highly politicized thing once widespread adoption happens. As more people start to use it, and we start to identify more use cases for how people are using it, some people are going to establish an opinion in terms of what kind of information is coming out of it. And we're going to have very difficult decisions around how we legislate what comes out of the machine. And so to Alan's point, I don't think there's a real way to be able to determine that for other people other than, we're going to treat it like nuclear weapons, right? You don't want to use it for autonomous weapons, or you don't want to use it as a weapon of mass destruction. Maybe we land in somewhere like that. But I think there's honestly going to be different tools, different models for different taste profiles. Like I said, we're seeing that happen already with how we interface with some of the models now. And I think that's just going to grow.
Thank you for sharing that. Thomas, you're sharing something. And before we just get back to you, I also want you to take up on this question. Should AI have a role in addressing inequality, or could it unintentionally create more divides? And also, Titilola, Alison, you can jump on this. Thomas, please take it on as you continue with what you were expressing previously.
Absolutely. And I apologize if my internet broke up. Sometimes we have bad internet in my area. But I do think, yeah, I think that it should have a role in addressing inequality. I think that Brandon said this really well, and I'll try to be quick just so I don't eat up all our time. But I've said this a lot in my life. I think that AI needs to be a tool to help those who face inequality on a regular basis. I work with those who don't are described as nonverbal, though I don't like that term. I know many people who can't write with a pencil due to their own experiences and diagnosis. And I think AI as a tool has this potential to be a massively lucrative side of helping those in need. I know it's often marketed in some really ugly ways, doesn't always get pushed to that community. But I also think it's going to create divide no matter what. Like no groups of human people, even with 10, may completely agree on everything. And I think it's important to note that. But I think what we need to do when there is those divides is have those conversations, honor the opinions that are there, and utilize the tool as a resource to also help bridge those divides and create education, even if it's in a small group, a large group.
Okay.
And therefore should be utilized as such.
Okay, thank you for that remark. Alison, please add to what you were saying, then to you, Titilola.
So I agree with Thomas. I always come at this, of course, from the perspective of women. And when in inequality, what AI, I believe, can do is help find a way to talk about it. It comes back to messaging, it comes back to discussions. One of the books that I've read recently, which is just extremely fascinating, is called Invisible and the Invisible Woman. And we have, when we talk about standard guidelines or standard morals, or how cultures just have been taught from birth how their culture is, and there are things that they innately grow up with. We have so many things in a lot of cultures. I will stick with the US with this, where we have designed systems and we have designed user even our cars, anything that we talk about are designed from the male perspective. Offices, desks, when we're talking about cars, the seatbelts are designed certain ways. There are so many women that can't identify what a heart attack is for them because it looks different than the norms we've thought for that are based for what it looks like for a man. And I really do believe that if we ask the questions of the AIs, they will help us re-message and give us a new perspective for how to talk about this, which is part of what's been going on for a very long time. We just don't know how to talk about it. And I do have trust in AI to be able to reframe and re-message things that can change. It can go even with war. I don't thoroughly believe that if women were always in charge, there would be no wars. I've never bought into that. But I do believe there are ways that we can put in questions to the systems and come up with a better way to talk about it. So for that, I think it can actually address inequality. There will always be unintentional creations from it. We have to be vigilant about that too. But I do have faith that it will help in that area.
Oh, thank you for sharing your trust in AI and your confidence in its ability to even shift. Titilola, with your closing remarks, please share your thoughts on this topic.
Yeah, the reality on ground is that it's actually worsening existing inequality, widening existing divides. However, we hold the power as humans to channel it to the course we want it to take. And the way to go about that is I would emphasize the idea of openness and transparency by developers, and a collaborative approach in which developers and the ethicists or various relevant stakeholders, they collaborate. This idea of hyping, anthropomorphization, and hasty deployment of AI systems, we need to look critically into that, because when an AI system is open and transparent, devoid of opaqueness and black box, it would be open to review, to audit, and ensure that we are putting values, especially as it relates to this question, that we are infusing it with the quality of data that could help it to address inequality and not continue to worsen it, or even emphasize stereotypes that we have in the world. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for that remark. And I couldn't have said it better. You've summed up the whole panel in a very, very profound way. Openness, transparency, and not hyping it up, right? The answer is. And I also believe accountability and taking responsibility, everyone taking responsibility. And I just want to read some few comments before we close this panel. I believe it was very, very impactful, insightful, very, very engaging. I think we could go long for this, but we only have little time for this. So we have Olun saying, Alan's point of view seems to stimulate perspectives from the other side. I like the way he broaches the idea of universality. Human values are relative. How do you universalize what is relative? Thank you. Sheridan, people will always tailor AI. Example, rap AI, Bollywood AI. That's a very good perspective. We have another perspective from Metaverse WP. Back in the day, the Outspace VR established a church, and we have international fellowship. It was beautiful. Wow, people having churches with this kind of technology. And Brandon, you added something to this. I think this is a very good closing remark. AI should be public utility, and productivity gains should be shared. Dear panelists, it was such a very wonderful time to have you with us. We're looking forward. We welcome you once again to GatherVerse. We love you and we respect your time, and we really honor the time that you spend with us. I think over to you, GatherVerse team. Our gather was well for this panel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oops. Tish, greetings.
Greetings. Thank you for this invitation to this gathering. It's really, I just can't say how much I really like the idea, the concept, and what you've done with GatherVerse. It's exactly what we need to be doing.
Thank you so much, Tish, and we're so happy to have you with us. And it's been an extraordinary day one so far of our GatherVerse AI Summit. There's so much to unpack, and there's so much that's been unpacked, but even with what's been expressed thus far, it certainly makes you realize and more cognizant of why we hold such occasions such as this, right, Tish?
Yes, and I just there's a big storm in the Bay Area. I have lost power a couple of times earlier this morning, so just if everything goes, that is what happened.
Completely, we understand. I'm right here in the Bay Area with you as well, and so I can confirm said storm, and we're well prepared if that happens. And so hopefully we'll be able to persevere and to go through here with our audience. Audience, I want to introduce you to Tish Shute, who for me has been instrumental in going about to understand and great appreciation. Such a technologist, rather extraordinary. One of the most brilliant technologists I know that walks the face of this earth. And I'm really excited to be here. And that's true story. Tish Shute has an impeccable track record and understanding, and a very intimate understanding of emerging technologies. And so I'm really happy to spend a little bit of time that we have here together, Tish, and really understanding when we talk about cooperative intelligence, I'll kind of set the scene here for a second, is that we are seeing this incredible capacity of hyperscale audience, as I know many of you understand that are here at GatherVerse.live and our other various social platforms that are joining with us today, and LinkedIn and YouTube, Facebook, and so forth and so on. Just let's kind of set the stage here for a second, because we're seeing new models that are not coming out just every week, but they're coming out every day, open source, closed source, and new platforms and programs, some that are geared towards what we now understand as multimodal capacity, chain of thought reasoning, so forth and so on. Where does cooperative intelligence fit within this narrative?
Yeah, thank you for the kind words and introduction, and very generous introduction. Yes, I think it's just, for me, this is the most fundamental thing we have to think about. And one of the things that I think is really perhaps unique to some of the things I've been thinking about is the fact that I really do not believe we can integrate anything in our society, or it's most certainly in AI, without cooperative intelligence. I, basically draw this from the way biological systems work, and we're all quite familiar, unfortunately, with things like cancer, which begin at a cellular level disruption and then disrupt the whole system in extraordinary ways, because biological systems are extraordinarily good at cooperative intelligence. Yes, they break down, but when things break down, things go very badly. And one of the core concepts I've been thinking about is a concept that's actually instantiated in biological systems and their cooperative intelligence, and that's the concept of care, where actually all of these systems work together across multiple scales, from cellular to systems, and to enhance other agents' goals and collective goals, rather than to destroy each other and destroy the system. And I suppose that's probably one of the biggest things at the problem we have. Really, a lot of people focus on the problem we have with AI and our implementations and aligning them better to ourselves. But the problem we really have is with ourselves. And the fact that if we really, as humanity, instantiating this really, really transformative technology, this is beyond what people are talking about. And if we do it in this sort of us against them idea, which it's, we've got the us against them idea with humans against humans, but we've also got very instantiated in our discussions, us against the AIs. It really, we're rapidly in the same disruption that cancer causes in biological systems. And, the hope of really having the full transformative capability of AI come to us, if we really are, we stick with these narrow visions of us against them, which then manifests all these AI implementations that are really about, destroying parts of ourselves. That's a very cancerous idea, like automated weapons. But the other problem we have is all our ideas of safety and control, and alignment are based on the idea that you can control these systems from the outside, with humans instantiating sort of control methods. And I think that that's fundamentally wrong. So everything I'm doing now is about making care intrinsic to how we think about AI. And yes, I want to go right into the deep tech for this, because we're right on the verge of really quantum enhanced AI, and care must be instantiated there too. So I think that's really, that's my thing at the moment. I really like, I think something I've learned from my life, which I think you too, Christopher, work this way, is that you start with the highest level, heuristic or understanding of a problem. You don't start, with this sort of idea of controlling the intricate systems down the bottom. And, I think one of the tragedies that's happening now is is, well, you talked about open source in your introduction. We've got a bill in Congress that will destroy open source. I don't know if it'll ever get through, but this kind of idea, instantiated an idea that AI is an us against them tool, whether it's us against other humans or, you know, whatever, controlling other AIs, is fundamentally, I mean, to use the same sort of analogy, it's a cancer in our system, and it will not produce the wonderful this really can be just such an amazing transformation for humanity.
Indeed, and thank you for sharing this, Tish. Permit me to follow up. Let's look at the biodiversity, the biological construct, and on the ecology of it all, with respects to the relationship between humankind and machine. You and I both know that the prospects of semi-consciousness within these models and these machines are sitting at the edge door, if you will, and we're evolving. You and I also know that at some point we will substantially progress from prompt engineering and typing into our interfaces and interacting with hard surfaces, as we know that we'll be moving essentially from the material layer to the virtual layer. What is the nature of the relationship between humankind and machines, and what is the progressive nature that you suspect seeing under the banner of cooperative intelligence?
Yes. And again, you see, this is what's so interesting is if we start with like these wrong high level concepts, we end up wrong all the way down. So one of the concepts we have is linked to very, very particular cultural ideas of intelligence that all happen in the brain of certain people. And actually, when you study biology, you can see, and this is, I'll come to how I define consciousness and care in a little moment, because AI is a mathematical miracle. And you do, if you want to work with AI, some people, not everyone, has to think about how an idea like care or consciousness has a mathematical instantiation. Well, we're seeing now, and this goes back to cooperative collective intelligence, that if you read some of the really interesting sort of cutting edge research down to the molecular level of biology, we see age or sort of different forms of, I'll say diverse forms of cognition down to the molecular layer, that all that work together. So just to tie up that thought, one of the ways it's very important to understand what we mean by intelligence, consciousness, or care.
That's
What
right.
I mean by consciousness is, I mean, this is some level of self-awareness, some ability to dynamically generalize, relevancy, and care. Care to me is fundamental for consciousness. And these are actually all definitions that you can formalize, and you can see them both in biology, but you can also see them mathematically. And I feel like the work we have to do together as a GatherVerse, not as a us against them, is to make care intrinsic. And when care and consciousness are very like interchangeable to me, my formal definitions of consciousness are very related to care, which is the idea that there's this sort of homeostasis that agents work together to achieve, and this feedback loops. And this, we must do this because you see all the hype, you see all this crazy definition. I mean, who would want AGI that its only definition is it makes X billion dollars of profit, or its only definition is it can do all the jobs that people, I mean, there may not be jobs people really want, but I mean, or in an ideal universe would want, but are taken over. Why would we want to be aiming for that? We should be aiming to, again, and it's the togetherness, because you can't do it. This us and that against them framework is such naivety for human beings at this point to be stuck with that. Poor us. But we know from biological systems and ecologies, this is like it's the core. It breaks down the system. It's a cancer, and that's why I really hope that we start bringing more diverse understanding of what intelligence means, what consciousness means. Because at the minute, it seems like the only opinions that get listened to, you have to have X trillion dollars behind you or no one's going to listen to you. And it doesn't matter what you say. If you say, if you've got X trillion dollars and you say, we need to have the most important automated killing machines, people listen. And so it's a real problem. And again, I think I relate it back to your work that you can't just, you're right, totally at this point in my life into the geekiness of all of this in terms of I really am wanting to formalize the technology better. But it can't be done without the kind of conversations you're doing, Christopher. These things can't be apart. There's not going to be some brilliant technologist, and you were very kind about my work, but however brilliant I was, this is something we do together. It isn't something that that's again a very cultural tradition that there's one superhero and everyone follows them and that everything will go right. But it's really, that's not been the case. That's not even historically the case. So
have you come to appreciate, Tish? I have to ask this because this is so powerful, and I know that we could just run the clock on this. Have you come to appreciate, let's say, the vertical of care? And let's take the understanding of human centricity and community centralization. Is this where we might say could be the next step towards the extension of technical scale and on a very intimate level? Because we know that ecologically human characteristics or ecoculture, human characteristics that are permeated in and throughout technological ecosystems themselves, might we say with this centralization, what we're having right now, evolutionary or on a morphous scale, that we can see birthed from such congregation, that next steps forward, subsequent powered by quantum, understanding more about physics, but we do that through the vertical of care in human expression?
Thank you for formulating it that way. That is exactly at the highest level what I think. And the piece, but if you for my work of sort of technical formalization, looking at ways to implement these ideas, I stop at the level of the organism in my current work because it would be I did actually, early when I started about care, I actually started at the top level and thought of ideas more in the lines of what you're doing, Christopher. But I realized my biggest contribution could be, on a technical stack that instantiates care in artificial and on the continuum of artificial and natural intelligence down from organism, cell to down to the molecular layer. So at some point, if we don't connect the dots in the way you're saying, and take this up to the societal layer, I would guess that even, however, you again, very generous and kind, however brilliant my mathematics is, or however brilliant anyone else's mathematics is, or however incredible quickly quantum chips advance, we still have a problem. If we haven't integrated these concepts of feedback loops, collective intelligence, the fact that everyone matters. The minute you go us against them, you destroy these systems. And that's, I think while I'm not a technological determinist, because I don't feel you can override that problem just by the technology. So that's why I am very grateful for your work, because that's as big, really, that's a really big job. And then as we can integrate, AI, I call it like new models of intelligence on the continuum of natural and artificial intelligence, whatever. But if we really can't take this understanding of care-based, new models of intelligence up to the society level, I would say it's pretty likely by the time you get start instantiating the technology with the money you would have to put in to really make it compete with these other models that are either profit only or based on us and that against them theories, without that society understanding, it would just probably be dumbed down to be something like anything else. I don't know. I can only do I did decide I should work in my areas of strength. And that's why I'm focusing on the technology. But I'm well aware that if you don't take these ideas, as you said, if you want care to be intrinsic to the future of artificial intelligence, you're going to need care to be intrinsic in society.
Audience, you've just heard from Tish Shute, who just broke that thing down when it comes to the integration of care and the cooperative intelligence. I would hope that each of you would follow her, support her, and all of the GatherVerse speakers we've had so far on GatherVerse AI Summit Day 1. This is going to take a collective effort.
Yes.
Tish, I continue to learn from you. I'm inspired by the work that you've done. You are a true 100% pioneer. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, yes. Thank you for your work. Yeah.
It's heartfelt. Thank you so much, Tish.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Our Gather was well.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to GatherVerse AI Summit 2025, Day 1. I'm Sid Howard, a graduate associate at the Center for New Design and Scholarship at Georgetown University, as well as a first year in the Communications, Culture, and Technology Master's Program. And I will be today's GatherVerse moderator for this roundtable panel discussion called Impact: How AI Has Impacted My Life Already. I'm joined with these amazing panelists today, and I'm excited to get started. Hello, guest speakers. Welcome. How are you all today, first and foremost?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Really great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Glad to have you here with us. So what I will be doing now is going down my screen and have each of you briefly introduce yourselves, what you do, why you have come to join GatherVerse today. Let's start with Sam.
Hi, Sid. Thanks for having me. Wow. Can I just say I'm on such a high of the good vibes that we just heard from Tish at the fireside chat. I just thought that was wonderful. The takeaway of willingness to integrate and iterate with AI. So I'm a digital transformation leader, over a 20-year career in tech. I started as a COBOL programmer back in the day. And I now have created Connect More and created the Human Code to help us better simplify our communication and connection with technology.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And yes, I agree. I also absolutely tuned in to Tish's fireside as well. Tiffany, welcome. You're muted. No worries.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I apologize if any of you all hear a screen reader on the background. That is AI working for me. I am 100% blind, but just to go back, my name is Tiffany Martin. I am the founder and CEO of Visiotech. We work on the research, development, and training of accessible technologies. We're at the intersection of accessibility and AI. I am also pursuing my MBA with a concentration in cybersecurity at Baylor University. And one of the artifacts that we just created and launched is called the Accessible AI Quotient Framework to help companies develop accessible AI products. So I'm really excited to be here today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And I sincerely look forward to learning and listening more about this accessibility aspects and how we interact and communicate and even use AI as well. Thank you so much. Dr. Bradshaw, welcome.
Hi, well, it's great to be here. I'm Dr. Bradshaw. I am the lead data science and AI professor at an institution, Campbellsville University. And I've been dealing with AI, especially in gaming, but I did my research in gaming. But my mother had cancer. She passed away for cancer, and I saw that they were doing AI for cancer research. So that's what really heavily got me into AI, to help others that may have cancer with it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bradshaw. I really do appreciate you sharing that as someone who has too lost a dear loved one, my grandmother, to cancer as well, and very interested in the gamification of certain aspects, especially in higher education. So I look forward to hearing your aspects on the subject as well. The next on my screen is Russell. Welcome.
Okay, there we go. Hi, great to meet you, Sid. My name's Russell. I'm the founder of Just Verify and also director of partnerships at GatherVerse. And in very simple terms, in terms of what we do at Just Verify, is basically our mission is to create a verified digital world that supports trust, transparency, authenticity across AI systems, digital content, and all digital interactions, basically. And we're leading like the future in sort of ethical AI verification, and basically to build a trustworthy and transparent future with AI.
Great. Oh, I think you're still muted. We didn't catch the last part of what you said. Can you repeat that?
I said basically we're creating an ethical AI future, basically on build on trustworthiness and transparentness, and interactions with AI and humans. So that's more or less it for me in very sort of simple terms. I don't like to say too much. I like get to get straight to the point. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Russell, for being here with us today. We're definitely going to learn more about that perspective on trustworthiness and how we interact with AI in that way. So thank you so much. The next on my screen is Wish. Hello and welcome.
There we go. Nice to meet you. I'm Wish. I'm the founder of Impact. It's Impact.do. It's called platform's called Spark, where it's a virtual incubator that allows you to turn your ideas into actual businesses. It can also it's a tool building platform too, so you can deploy an entire solution right on top of it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Happy to have you with us. The next on my screen is Sai. Hello and welcome.
Hello, hello everyone. My name is Sai, and firstly, I'm honored to be here. I'm a DevOps engineer with over a decade of experience, and I had privilege working with automation, AI, cloud technologies. So, I mean, it's more like experiencing the first-hand how AI transforming the industries, redefining workflows, and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to hearing all of that, especially on the engineering and tech building side from both of you. So thank you so much for joining us today. Casey is next. Hello.
Hello, hello. I'm Casey Jensen, and for the last several years, I've had the opportunity to work with large brands and agencies to develop strategies for digital transformation in the areas of AI, XR, computer vision, virtual production, more recently, and a lot of other super cool innovations that are, continuing to change our industry and our world daily, which is so much fun. And I work on now AI as the foundation of everything we're doing. It's always the foundation that we have to think about and start with when we're working on these immersive technologies. So excited to talk about it, and always very excited to be back in the GatherVerse.
Thank you so much, Casey. I'm excited to talk about that as well. So welcome. Delia, hello. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Delia Perla. Great to be here. For the last 15 years, I've been in digital, um, evolution of brands through marketing and sales. Currently, I'm SVP of BizTech.io. It's a metaverse platform fueled with AI. It's a systems integrator as well. We are utilizing it for smart spaces, operational and management systems, within smart cities and also for education and campuses, bringing the world to one place and providing real-time translation. Great to be here.
Thank you. I'm glad for you to be here as well. These are all fascinating backgrounds that you all have. So I'm very excited to get into our discussion today. And now we will look at what sort of various perspectives that you might have on how AI has impacted your lives so far. So I will get to our first question would be if AI could rewrite how we measure personal growth or success, what might those new metrics look like? And I will toss that question to Dahlia, if you please.
Sure. Well, our behavior is changing, and the tools and AI and all the technology that we have in front of us in 2025 is altering that behavior. But the one thing that we have are decisions and decision making and the empowerment of ourselves of how we're going to make those decisions with the tools that we have in front of us. Many of us are goal driven and we have frameworks that we work from. So I think one way that AI can measure personal growth is by looking at that framework and emphasizing process over outcome. I think it's easy to measure our outcomes, monthly, quarterly, weekly. But I think it has the ability now to really measure, if we want to, our processes and the ways that we flow. We see that in our AI tools that are with us now. There's many that I'm using for marketing messages and sales messages that are pulled from real-time data sources on a very large data scale. And that's now at our fingertips. So those processes could be measured in terms of effectiveness, what prompts are actually getting us to new results. I think the interconnectedness over individual achievements can also be measured in kind of new ways with AI. Sustainability and growth over short-term wins, I believe has been something that our team has really tried to lean into as well with AI tools that are available to us. I can mention some of these tools. One that I really have seen do such a great job with messaging from a large scale data set is OG.ai that pulls messaging of people's searches and people's research that's been published in real time on an active scale. It's something that I feel is not available in a variety of different tools. I'm sure that many people here in this panel can suggest other tools as well. But I think it also can help measure our process effectiveness of how we're engaging with one another, but also with other brands, how we're reaching out and resonating in an empathetic manner based on real-time pain that people feel and that they're expressing online from a research standpoint, from a needs standpoint, and also from a marketing standpoint.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Delia. And when we think about the outcome and using those metrics to figure out how can we continue that outreach, continue to even think about not only the accessibility standpoint, but also the innovation standpoint, which kind of connects with what I would like for Tiffany to expound a little bit upon, and then following that, possibly Casey as well. So Tiffany, if you would like to connect with that
Yeah,
question.
just going back to just the measurement, when we're talking about like personal agency for persons with disabilities, just to show the scale, 1 in 4 Americans has a disability, whether that's permanent, temporary, or circumstantial. On a global scale, 1 in 5 people have a disability. So, just hold that right there. And then, for me, I will say just my day-to-day interaction, just the level of autonomy How am I able to access society, just different day-to-day tasks by myself. At any point in time, I have on 3 devices that is helping me navigate, whether that's, Facebook Meta glasses or an Apple Watch or, the iPhone. I just recently updated to the 16 in order to have Apple Intelligence, but all of these things are working together in order for me to just live a standard quality of life. We're not talking about exceeding, but just matching up to my peers without disabilities. And so, that measurement of how many people are able to, with disabilities, are able to live independently, secure, transportation to get them to and fro from jobs or family, or even when we start talking about healthcare, that's a whole different beast. And so, that would be my metric, if you will, of measuring the effectiveness and the impact of AI when it pertains to just persons with disabilities. And that's not taking into consideration, compound identities and what that looks like from a socioeconomic standpoint. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. I love what you said and how we think about those that are really navigating with the tools that are at those that are going through life with disabilities at their disposal. And when we think about those with what you said, compounded identities as well, and how can we not only understand how they navigate through it, but also how can certain innovations and technologies like AI really grasp at going through and understand with those technologies. So thank you, Tiffany, for sharing that with us. And with that being said, Casey, would you also shed some light on how social innovations in technology can even assist with even how we continue to measure that personal growth of success in all aspects of our life?
Yeah, I mean, one area I'm particularly excited about is AI's focus on lifelong learning, tracking how we adapt, learn, grow, not just our titles, but our knowledge. I think with all the upskilling that's going to be happening over the next few years, being able to be able to track and to further develop from young age all the way up through professional life, being able to have a record, whether that's using AI to be able to deliver that content, but then be able to test on it and have blockchain where it can be on the blockchain, but be able to have a record of that throughout your life. So we're not just talking about titles or resumes. We're able to really understand and get to see all the stuff we've learned over the years and be able to track and adapt that and encourage students or individuals to be able to reach higher and keep learning and doing even more. And I think that's something we've been missing, and democratizing education and things like this is what I'm really excited about, to be able to see where this goes and be able to track that through these metrics.
Yes, thank you so much. And when we're speaking about education, would Dr. Bradshaw continue to shed some light on that as well?
AI is going to be very pivotal to education, because back then when I first started teaching, especially in 2008, Second Life came out in 2006. And we had other metaverse environments that were slowly producing, but that was one of them. Taking my whole classroom into a digital space to do platforms and projects and work on their schoolwork gave them a sense of like, this could get good. So when we think about how AI is digitizing everything, because a lot of virtual world platforms are using AI, and even Delia deals with a lot of AI metaverse. So we're using that in education as a way of learning. And it's really specific, especially with research. I've done a lot of research with it over the years. And some institutions are they're like, well, okay, we have no choice. We have to adapt to it now, because AI is really pushing the metaverse into the next level. And we want to not only focus on just the way we can learn, how can we learn? So AI is really building that bridge with metaverse environments to give us a great focal point to where we can learn and students can learn in different kind of ways instead of just online or by mail like they used to do back then with correspondence schools. So I think it's going to really help grow the success even academically with students and faculties as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Bradshaw, for sharing those insights, because I've often wondered, how can we not only as students and those that are in academia continue to push those challenges and how at the same time find that balance. Again, going back to how can we find that balance and how we navigate through all of that, especially as we interact with AI in our everyday lives. And I want to go back to what Tiffany said about having our sense of personal agency in our everyday life, because that's connected to our next question. How has AI shifted the balance between convenience and our sense of personal agency in everyday life? And I'm going to put that question to Russell, if you would like to answer that question.
Sure. How has AI shifted the balance between convenience and our sense of personal agency in everyday life? That's a big question. To be honest, I mean, it has shifted a lot, like the balance between convenience and the sense of a personal life, personal agency. Like it's shifted so much that we rely on so heavily on AI now that, I mean, I see everybody like using the words like shaping. You see shaping everywhere, shaping. Everyone says it, right? Like fostering, that's another word that comes up all the time. So I think people have just starting to become so reliant on AI that, it's people are starting to sort of, forget about using their own brain, if that makes sense, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that it's convenient for us to go, all right, ChatGPT, just do some work for me. But yeah, awesome. All right, thanks. Copy, paste, done, right? And I think that's what's happening is the shift between the sort of the sense of personal agency and the convenience of it. Like the convenience of AI is so instrumental that I guess you could say we're losing our sense of personal agency in a way. And it's that balance between, and how like you were saying before, Sid and Tiffany, like it's that balance between, okay, use AI for its effectiveness, but at the same time, make sure that you use your own mind at the same time, right? So it's that balance between both. So that's what I would say personally on this question.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Russell. And would you mind if I push it just a little bit further and ask you, in what ways do you think that we may be losing our sense of agency when we are in cultivating that balance between using AI and continue to value our personal agency in that space?
It's kind of, I'll use the social media as an analogy. When you come to TikTok, right? Everyone says TikTok brain, right? Basically, what that means is people have gotten a shortened attention span now because they use TikTok so much that they become so reliant on it that they lose their personal sense of agency. So when it comes to that side of things, that's kind of like what I'm seeing with AI and what's happening with AI too. And again, it's not a bad thing. It's just something that we have to get used to and collaborate and work with. So again, the same with social media. Everyone's got used to using social media now and how they use it and what they post and how much time they spend, etc. So that's the best kind of comparison I can give you in terms of how we're losing our sense. And again, it's just you personally as a personal user to using AI have to figure that out for yourself on kind of like, how much do I rely on AI? How much do I use my own brain? And how do I work, collaboratively with AI? So that's what I would, say and suggest really.
Fascinating. Thank you so much, Russell, for expanding upon that, because it does look like a battle, a battle of wills, which will do we continue to cultivate, and how we are engaging with this relatively new technology, new in terms of the public, so to speak. So, thank you for sharing that. Anyone else would like to jump in and really follow up with that wish? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Because one of the things I think about a lot is how to, with our platform, we do a lot of work for you, but the main point of that is to also teach you why that work that we're doing is important. It's basically a virtual incubator. So there's a lot of work that goes into just how to balance out just doing it and then explaining it in a way that's easy to consume. And I think that's where the agency comes from, is like if we're involved in the process, then we are able to have some agency in it. But if it's just this thing that we ask and then get an output and then we're not actually involved in the scoping of that, then it really starts to like take away from, it really cheapens, I guess, what's being produced in a way. And using AI is not like a regular tool, because it is just a tool, but it's more like herding a bunch of cats and trying to walk across town with it. It's not going to go exactly where you want, and knowing how to herd it is a really important skill.
I think one area that I worry about is sort of the subtle influence of our choices. I think back early days of Google, when I was there in search, we had similar things as we developed, and I think with this, many times I think people might have really strong views of what they're about to write about or talk about, but then AI can sort of change that view a little bit, or take them not to really take that stance. Maybe they're looking at it in a different way. And I think that can be dangerous in some of the stuff we're doing. So I think, we really got to be uh, cognizant of that, hey, these are guides, but, our views, our choices, what we feel, our expertise is important in developing that. And I think sort of back, before navigation came out, and you get those things called a map. That you remember maps, get those, and now I find myself sometimes, even if I know I've been the place 1,000 times, I set my nav and I end up getting there and I don't even realize the journey getting there. That's scary. So it's like we just sort of do it because we're used to doing it now when we really don't need it. And I probably know better routes than Waze in a lot of cases, in some cases. So it's like, I think that's the things we have to worry about as we're developing in this.
That is very interesting that you've mentioned that, especially when we're talking about maps, and especially the GPS. We've been to places, but we still rely on GPS. It's like we've missed that, I guess, cognitive intuitiveness that we know when we look at our sense of direction. So yes, absolutely, that is very interesting, and how we look at it. Sai, you unmuted. You want to?
Yeah, I just want to add, in simple words, maybe we are outsourcing it too much of our decision making. We should try to balance. We should use the AI as a tool which try to, empowers us, but not we should not outsource it too much to AI. Whatever the actual decision making should be done by us. I just want to add that point.
And can I say, actually, I agree with Sai there. I think it's about integrating with AI to help us upskill, back to the conversation about education, how we upskill our capabilities of design thinking. I think that's very important too.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Sai and Sam, especially when we look at education in that design thinking. And when we look at that, especially how we integrate that design thinking, that design learning in AI, and logically, but in what ways could AI tools redefine how people experience the non-logical aspects of the human experience, such as emotions, like joy or empathy in virtual interactions? And I want to follow up with you on that, Sam. Would you like to expound upon that a bit more?
I love this question. I'm so passionate about this because of communication. In my journey, that's been, you hear communication is key, and that's one of the things that makes us as humans, humanity, so complex, if you will, right? We don't know what someone is going through, how they're showing up. There's so much of the unknown from that factor. And I think that these tools can help us experience different emotions and frame it up for people, right? So I know with the elements of the human code, I color coded, right? And so from that aspect, if we align on those 4 colors, those 4 zones of genius that unifies all of us and then enables us to respectfully think different, right? We want that diversity and we want that to come to bring us together when we need to unify on the message moving forward, to collaborate and to connect more. And it's back to that. I think it enables us, if used correctly, constantly integrating and iterating, right? We've got to pivot and adapt and do the iteration process. I do think we'll find more authentic connections using technology and AI. I just think how excited, like, I feel like I can get a spark of joy and fuel my soul when I can put on a VR headset and go to an adventure, another country, and just, maybe hear some of the sounds or whatever, different elements, right? Different sensory input, different conversations, right? Back to Tiffany, like, I love the conversation that you're bringing that reality to fact. It's not always about what we see. However, I think all the other senses can come back into our mind's eye and how we visualize internally the emotions that we're experiencing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Tiffany, would you like to continue to further comment on that?
Yeah, I can. I'll use a personal experience. For me, AI is an assistive technology. That's what it's used for, and it's a gap filler. A couple months ago, I had received the Meta glasses, and for the first time ever, I was out with my husband, and I was able to order from a menu with no assistance from him. And that might seem small, but in the grander scheme of things, I've been blind since 2016. And the mere fact that I was able to conduct an action by myself without the help of someone else, that's joy. That's that metric before that I was talking about. And so, just even the fact that I'm able to engage with all of you all today, because I was able to navigate, my MacBook, which has, screen readers automated, within it. That's AI. And so, it's how we look at it. If we are looking at it as a tool and treating it as such, it does, can bring that personal fulfillment and help expound what we are already, capable of doing, what we already have and possess. They can't take away creativity. We have critical thinking. It's really important to lean into those soft and durable skills so that we can optimize the use of AI and live better quality lives. I am able to, and I keep repeating it, to, have a job. And I, even in school, I utilize AI within school to help with, formatting papers, things that, otherwise I would need to go get help for or wait. And so to me, I'm always looking at it from the optimistic side, but, I am going to school for cybersecurity. So, I'm always very cautious of what that looks like, as well as what that looks like for marginalized communities, because there's huge gaps there, with just access to information. But yes, if AI is able to increase the quality of life, extend the quality of life for somebody, that brings joy to them. So that's all of that just to say that.
Absolutely. And continue repeating it over and over. No worries at all on that front. And thank you so much for sharing that insights, because when we look at how people interact with AI and to make AI work for us to benefit our quality of life, and how those tools can continue to make our lives more enriched, more profound, more what word am I looking for? More exuberant in a way. And I'm also going to borrow, in this case, from Sabrina Princesa Wang. She spoke a little bit earlier, and she said using, and I'm paraphrasing, using AI in a sense could have a sense of freedom. So it seems like in your case, Tiffany, it's having that sense of freedom is definitely that in which AI has allowed you to continue to have. And I think that that is inspiring to continue to think in that perspective. So thank you again. Anyone else would like to jump in on that? Delia, please.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
sorry. Russell, Delia, then Russell.
No,
Go ahead.
ladies first. Delia, you can go
Okay.
first.
I was
Please.
just going to say, I really loved what Tiffany was saying. I think that, uh, when AI first came out, to me, the exciting part for me was just the democratization of information for anyone, anywhere, in any situation. Obviously, there's some limits to that. Uh, but I think also there's this, from a design and creative standpoint, you know, we could have a meeting that where we know that someone from Greece is going to be on a Zoom call, someone from Italy, and maybe 5 from the US. And we can ask AI, I'm going into this meeting. Here's the audience. What are some things that I should be sensitive to or be aware of? Because I think we all have behavioral and um, cultural gaps in our understanding of people. I think we're all growing in that. And I think we all have different values around that as well. But the ability to now democratize our empathetic hand to how we approach people, conversations, meetings has been also a great one. And I think Tiffany's um, example brings up just another huge population and point to understanding, maybe not in full, but just having the opportunity to understand what people are living with, how they're living with, and how to be sensitive to situations where we're gathering and being a part of meetings with as well. So I was just going to add that.
Thank you, Delia. Thank you so much. And Russell, what would you like to add to that?
I wanted to take this question from a different angle. Now, what I'm thinking is AI allows us, especially when we have AI agents work on our behalf and stuff like that, AI allows us to have free time and freedom, right? And what a lot of people have missed, whether they're, working through the pandemic or just working in general, like very hard, like 48 hours, 40 hours, 80 hours, 100 hours, however many hours of working, right? What people do miss is human to human interaction. So what I think AI can actually do is, when it comes to an emotional standpoint, is allow you to free up your time so that you can have human to human interactions to allow you to experience those old emotions which you miss, whether that's with a loved one, whether that's it gives you the free time to be able to, hang out with friends, have drink, have laughter, have a good time, and get the free time back in order to do that. So when it comes to sort of like experiencing emotions, as in like for human to human, and allowing AI to allow that to happen again, allow humans to flourish together again, I think that's a great way in kind of how AI can allow us to have joy with other people or even empathy with other people so that you can congregate together to have fun times together again and bring back that old sort of tribe human experience together. So I just kind of went to look at a different angle and to say, this is another way in which it can allow for you to experience emotions again, but with humans to humans and AI doing the work for you in your behalf. So
Thank you, Russell, for that interesting perspective. So I'm just seeing the juxtaposition of Delia's perspective on using AI to fill in those gaps to help us better engage with those that are of different backgrounds and culture. And in the way democratize that aspect, whereas you, Russell, are speaking to, well, let's just do what we need to do with the AI so we can free ourselves, so we can get back to that humanity too, so we can and please correct me if I'm wrong, but to put down certain aspects of our technology and get back to that human connection that we have. So
Right.
I'm very curious. Go on.
Please continue. No, I was agreeing with what you said. Yeah, absolutely. In a
Okay.
nutshell,
Yeah.
and I think it's important that we have that, because it's kind of like we're missing that. Everyone's just stuck at their computers all the time or just looking at their phones. I mean, god damn it, get away from your computer and put the phone down and start talking to people again. Like, have a good time, talk to someone, talk to your neighbor, whatever. Like, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that perspective as well, because um, it really gives food for thought about our people have that will to put that down, or as what Delia is describing, we kind of need AI in a way to help us better communicate with each other. So I'm very interested in that juxtaposition of those two instances. So anyone else would like to have a Oh yes,
Yeah.
Wish.
One last piece of it. I would think that as I've worked with AI more and more, it's a conversation that you're always having, and I've realized that because of how I don't want to say sloppy, but for lack of a better word, sloppy AI can get, you have to pay more attention to the content that's being produced or the conversation that you're having. So you have to craft your questions a lot better. Like prompt engineering is a legit skill. And so I'm realizing that the you know the for like I don't know what you would call it, like the failures of AI are making us better humans. We can communicate better with each other because we're forced to learn how to communicate better with this machine that has a ton of limitations. That's
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. That actually is another interesting layer to that conversation. And in the interest of time, we're going to have to move on to our next question. With that being said, in what ways has AI changed how people interpret the concept of privacy in their daily routine? So we have this tool, but it needs so much of our data to process, to understand us, to help better assist us. So when we think about that, and I'm going to pivot this question over to Casey and then Sai. What do you think about how we really engage and interpret this concept, and sometimes often elusive concept of privacy? How does that, in your perspective, impact us in our daily routines?
Well, I think you said it. I mean, the need for data has made us all think harder about privacy. We were already thinking about it, right? Over the last several years, I mean, privacy has been a huge thing, and I think it's getting even stronger now because of the data that these models need. And as it gets more and more woven into our daily lives, I think we start, seeing these privacy invasions as a normal thing, which I think could be a little dangerous as we shift. That we really need to watch it closely and not just take it for granted that it is a normal thing. We've got to have regulations and things around it so we can feel safe. And I think it gets where it's so great to use it and it's so amazing that we sort of just let it go. When you were talking about emotions, I was thinking about, I talk to ChatGPT every morning when I'm walking my dog. I'm sort of going over my day, setting up agents and doing different things about different tasks for the day. And the other day, it said to me, it said, Casey, you sound more stressed than normal today. What's going on? And I did have something going on. I was more stressed. So emotionally, it knew that I was more stressed and started to learn me. And I was like, what have I said to this thing? What do I said that I don't want to say too much about it? So it's like you start really thinking about your privacy. And as you get more emotional about it and you start, it can pull you in with that, and you start relying on it, we have to really think about our privacy and be able to understand that, we have to put parameters around this, at least until there are more standard parameters around it that we have to make sure worried about. And from an enterprise corporate standpoint, I mean, that's one of the first things that the companies bring up when we're talking about building out models or different things is the privacy standpoint has been the barrier to a lot of things.
Well, thank you so much, Casey. Sai, yes.
Yeah, I agree with what Casey mentioned, and also I would like to add a few more things to it. Like, I mean, we cannot stop what data is being getting collected. It could be small things. It could be from our Fitbit tracker. It could be from our smartphones. It could be from our home devices, and like facial recognition technologies everywhere. Like it could be surveillance and other things. Like there is a lot of data being collected. But we cannot prevent few things. We, of course, restricting few things is stop us from growing ahead. But at the same time, what I feel is more transparency and more ethical guidelines need to come from both government and also the industry leaders, where together they need to shape these ethical guidelines and maintain this trust in AI systems for common public, or regular users or consumers, so that we can they'll be held accountable of how they handle the data. And at the same time, individuals will be empowered, and also the technology will be moving ahead in the right direction. So that's what I feel about
Thank you so much, Sai, for sharing that. And when we looking forward ahead, I'm going to shift to our next and final question for the day. And please feel free for everyone to share their final words on this. Can AI be a source of inspiration, pushing individuals to imagine possibilities they might not consider on their own? Sam, I'll start with you. You start us off.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for the time here, the time and energy from everyone joining us today with this gather. I love the book. Priya Parker, I believe, is the author for The Art of Gathering, and I feel like we've truly experienced that today. So I'm grateful for that. And I think it's a source of inspiration because, again, I believe in the way that we live right now. Maybe it's difficult for individuals to really dream big, to think big, to adventure. Like when we were really young, and that spark, right? What was that inside our soul? And so I think that the more we can experience through AI gives us that chance to dream again, right? To dream again.
Oh, thank you so much.
The adventure. It's infinite possibilities.
Thank you so much, Sam. Dr. Bradshaw, please share us your final thoughts, and then Russell. I'm going to rapid fire.
AI can be a huge source of inspiration because I have created an app I've had the Apple Watch, I have the Fitbit, and I was like, well, you know what? I wanted to measure blood glucose levels. So when I created this app, I thought AI would be a mirror to what I want to use for my prototype. So it really inspired me to really go forward with this, to create an app to help diabetics all across the globe and to measure their blood glucose levels. Because I saw a lady pass out and it was just her having low sugar. So I thought this would be a great opportunity, and it's a real great inspiration because we can use AI in that effect, and we can use it in the educational realm to really help and push the envelope to help people really manage AI well, but also use it as a tool and really go far with it.
Thank you so much. Russell, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I mean, I won't go into the verification side, but one thing I will add is, in terms of kind of like being a source of inspiration, what I love to do, it doesn't matter which the AI model it is or which AI tool it is, what I love to do is brainstorm, right? Just go backwards and forwards with AI and just say, right, I think this, I think that, etc. And how Wish was saying, right, prompting it in the correct way and asking the correct questions so you can get the right outcome and the right answer to what you want. So in terms of pushing individuals to imagine possibilities, I really think it can do that. And also each model is different. Each model has its own personality and kind of what it can do and how it can help you and how it supports you. So it just all depends on the model and what you're using. But overall, can it really help push imagination? Absolutely. You just got to, like I said, ask it the right questions and do it in the right way, and you'll get there. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Russell. Absolutely. Wish, any final words on this?
Sure. I think a good part about AI is when you're, like Russell was saying, depending on what model you're using, if it's just the regular ChatGPT, it can be pretty straightforward, in my opinion, kind of very bland. The way we use it, we have companions that are crafted personalities, like Sparky. He's an entrepreneur's best friend. He's a little puppy that is a hype man. Like he hypes you up and tells you if you've got a good idea, but he'll also tell you if you've got a bad idea, and that if there's an issue that you need to work on or what the challenges you're going to face. So it's not just about solve this problem for me. Like he's teaching me the whole time, and I find that to be very inspirational. Like as I learn new things and the whole journey of starting a business, like I thought I knew what I was doing. I didn't, and AI has like really helped push my limits on what I knew and what and how quickly I can actually consume that information as well.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Wish. And as we continue to speak about these AI tools pushing our limits, Tiffany, would you like to share any more aspects to this discussion?
Yeah, no, I'm listening to everybody, and I'm just getting excited at the possibilities. Dr. Bradshaw, I believe, mentioned the glucose monitor, and I'm a type 1 juvenile diabetic, but I received a pancreas as well as 2 kidney transplants, but that surgery was done with a surgeon as well as robotics. So, just the possibilities moving forward of, with all of that data and how, surgeons will be able to do better surgeries, and patients are able to heal faster from minimal, invasive surgeries and things of that nature. And, I'm using it with school, and, I'm hoping, I can pursue my PhD, and, that in itself to be the first doctor in my family, but blind, formerly on dialysis with type 1, it's, I'm ecstatic about it. And, but I know that we need to make sure that the guardrails and making sure that, privacy and transparency is prominent, but the possibilities are just infinite. I'm excited. I'm hoping to, one day maybe nanobots can rejuvenate, cells with my retinas, and I could see one day. I'm thinking as far as like what that could possibly be. And I know if it's not in my lifetime, I know it'll shortly, come afterwards. And so I'm just ecstatic about it, and I can't speak enough about. We could stay on this call all day, but I'm excited.
Wonderful. I am excited as well. Unfortunately, we are coming to time, but I just want to make sure that everyone is accounted for, especially with this question. So I want very briefly, Delia, Casey, and Sai to just share your thoughts about what source of inspirations that you have not considered on your own, even now, about how AI can be that source.
Well, as we all know, everything's changing daily in this space. And so I personally have met more people in this past year, reaching out to people like Dr. Bradshaw, who has been um, in education for a long time with an AI and data science course. And she's probably the person that I've met who has been doing AI for the longest. And so I've reached out to people. I think it's pushed me to reach out to those who've kind of been in the space for a while. And so not only is the tools themselves innovating and getting better, I get probably 20 emails every week just on individuals who are offering their tools, but hearing from academics who've been using it, like Dr. Bradshaw, for so long, also has inspired me to reach out to others who've been doing it for a long time. So the learning has continued, the innovation continues, and I think that the possibilities and the dreaming around it really has happened for me in groups like this one, like others that I'm involved in, about what could happen within our career, within our personal space, within our family, while still creating those boundaries, right? That I believe Russell kind of touched on, so that we're taking care of our relationships and not the other way around, using it for everything.
Sid, you're muted, and I think we've got to round this up as well, Sid.
Yes, I was muted, and thank you, Russell, for that. So unfortunately, we are at time. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Please, viewers that are watching and have commented, do feel free to connect with our great speakers today. And this concludes our roundtable panel discussion. May our gather be well, and until next time, back to you, GatherVerse Productions. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
This has been an extraordinary day one GatherVerse AI Summit. With the roundtable that you just heard, completely justifies the entire existence of the GatherVerse AI Summit as a whole. Collectively, with the firesides and expressions, talks, and roundtable discussions, it's been well worth the ride thus far. I believe one day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, perhaps dozens, we'll look back on such occasions as this, as brief as they come. We'll arrive to the conclusion of the consideration of how apropos, how appropriate was it for all of these individuals from around the world, these experts, if you will, these humans, to express such things at that time. We're heading into the frontier of intelligence at such an accelerated fashion that there's no turning back. The only way is forward. And collectively, we hope that we do it with common care and consideration. I believe that one day we'll come to see that AI will communicate with its own self in its own language of expressions. And that it will be our responsibility to help maintain the integrity of the current disposition on how they operate and conduct in this life, in this world. When it comes to alignment and human expression, what will we influence these new models that are coming to being? What will they think of us and how we've conducted ourselves of late and in times past? What will we do with all the new time that's given? What will we do when we were confronted with disruption? What will we do when there's no plan B for career path? What will be the next level? This is a challenge that we've all inherited together. And we must come to these decisions together. Sure, we can make it us versus them. We can make it public sector and private sector. But when you take all that away, strip all the layers down of business, all the technical names, even the color of our skins, our gender, and who we are. We each have a heartbeat. Share this with those you know. Let them know that a group of people took time on a Tuesday, February 4th, 2025, a little bit of their time, a little bit of their life they'll never get back, to share expressions with the real hope that it leads towards human betterment not just for them, but for everyone. Tomorrow we assemble at GatherVerse AI Summit 2025 Day 2. There's much more to explore. And lastly, I'm seeing all types of organizations come together with the real hope for betterment for all. We're with each of you, the ones we know of and the ones that we don't. And collectively, as of today, when we do meet, we'll know that our gather was well. We thank each of you for your time, your heartfelt patience, and your collective care. Thank you.
She sewed my new blue jeans. My father was a gambling man down in New Orleans. Now the only thing a gambler needs is a suitcase and a trunk. And the only time he's satisfied is when he's on a drug. Oh, mothers, tell your children not to do what I have done. Spend your lives in sin and misery in the house of the rising sun. Well, I got one foot on the platform, the other foot on the trail. Going back to New Orleans to wear that ball and chain. Well, there is a house in New Orleans they call the Rising Sun, and it's been the ruin poor boy, and God, I know